That devil mask of the red ghost martial cultivator appeared even more malevolent, the eyes beneath the mask issuing a cold light. Star General. The ghost martial cultivators present each retreated. Even if they were in the Falling Blossoms Ghost Kingdom, Star General's renown was like that of supernatural beings. Compared to these fiend stars, ghost martial cultivators, demon among demons, appeared only so. Why would you Star Masters and Star Generals care about our Falling Blossoms Kingdom's affairs? The lead ghost martial cultivator voice sunk. Admirable people and exemplary deeds do not differentiate nationalities. Su Xing laughed. Do not think ghost martial cultivators' capabilities are just this. Today, we will let you bury your corpses here. The red ghost martial cultivator shouted, and the remaining ghost martial cultivators read incantations. Their bodies turned into shadows, unexpectedly dissolving into the night. This time, Su Xing was no longer neglectful. The second wave of sneak attacks was just like a clump of approaching, pouncing ghostly shadows. What was different from his expectations was that the attack in the darkness was far from being as simple as he imagined. Nearly at the same time, the killers in the darkness simultaneously launched an attack against Su Xing, completely hidden within the dark. Even their breathing that seemed to disappear and cease to exist let them seemingly vanish. These illusory shadows became a method of confusion and the greatest concealed protection. And even during the attack, they had no traces. They entirely had reason to be convinced that under their combined assault, any enemy would absolutely be a dismembered body the next moment. The sound of the cutting edges slicing open the atmosphere filled the space. This time, a portion of the ghost martial cultivators wound around Yanizhan, and the rest of the ghost martial cultivators attacked Su Xing. They also knew that to kill a Star General, they first of all had to kill the Star Master. Afterwards, the Star General could only let them slaughter her. It was just that they thoroughly underestimated Su Xing's capabilities. In a close-quarters battle between Star cultivators, he definitely held an even more superior position. As far as the Su Xing that had neither sword chant nor top-notch artifacts and magic weapons was concerned, the current ghost martial cultivator's assault matched his expectations. Although he had completely lost the traces of their attacks and presences, relying on his battle instinct premonitions, his figure suddenly swiftly retreated. Just like that, he broke away from their assault and simultaneously threw out the Origin Heaven Will he had just obtained. The Origin Heaven Will swelled without warning. The gear revolved in ensuing surroundings, emitting a golden starlight, forming a tightly wrapped defense. It made the sneak-attacking ghost martial cultivators helplessly recoil backwards, and the other ghost martial cultivators did everything they could to pursue and attack. Each pitch-black weapon simultaneously emitted and took in black saber light, unexpectedly unleashing full power to kill Su Xing instantly by all means. Su Xing's finger moved, and an intertwined branch sword appeared in hand. This small sword's tip was threatening, cleaving at the screen of darkness. Under Su Xing's chanting, it suddenly plunged in. A shattering sound came from within the darkness, as did a moan, and cold floated over through the air. A ghost cultivator's brain had been penetrated by green light, and immediately afterwards, the green light arbitrarily wandered under Su Xing's will, and there was yet another long, blood-curdling scream. Several ghost martial cultivators successively entered the trailing dust. It's a magic weapon. The ghost martial cultivators were shocked. When he was controlling the intertwined branch sword to kill, Su Xing at this time also calmly went about this task unhurriedly amidst the chaos. Those extremely mighty cutting edges appeared to be incomparably slow before his eyes. The innate Bagua escape techniques wandered in the midst of several ghost martial cultivators. With a pattern to advance retreat, neither rushed nor slow. The ghost martial cultivators' seemingly swift and fierce attacks slipped past Su Xing's sides by a hair's breadth every time, always unable to connect. A fist raised a violent and strong gust, as if every movement possessed a kind of indescribable courage, seemingly spurring the entire space to rebellion. A ghost martial cultivator finally broke through, leaning forward on his flying sword. But what awaited him was Su Xing's nimble evasion and his deadly, heavy fist. His neck was very cleanly broken. Su Xing all of a sudden slowed his movements. Along with the progress of the battle, his fingers emitted a faint light ray of purple thunder, swaying back and forth as if carrying a heavy object. The arms of the ghost martial cultivators seemed to incessantly swing about. The group was very anxious, yet they did not have the slightest bit of wiggle room. Following the swaying of Su Xing's palms, they swayed along, as if they were having a nightmare. Suddenly Su Xing's palms fiercely dropped, and the bodies of the ghost martial cultivators simultaneously shook. Poo-pee-view. Muffled echoes continuously sounded out in the air. Su Xing carried a cold smile on his face, and he leaned his body slightly to the side, his legs stepping in a mysterious pace. He leisurely strolled between and passed by them. His fingers slid past in the void, and the spiderweb-like purple thunder strings were scattered freely into the darkness. He abruptly tightened his 10 fingers, drew in his palms, and along with Su Xing's gestures, his 5 fingers shot out a net-like purple-colored thunderlight. These thunderlights wandered like electric snakes, and under Su Xing's control, they scattered in all directions, grabbing all of the ghost martial cultivators' bodies like sharp claws. Blooming water divine thunder blossomed in the night. All the ghost martial cultivators immediately lost their breath and fell onto the ground, having already met a violent end under the divine thunder. Divine thunder? The red-masked ghost martial cultivator shouted aloud, turning around to flee. How could Su Xing and Yan Yizhen let him go? At this time, a girl walked out from within an alley. Seeing from head on the devil mask, she immediately was frightened. Not good. Su Xing thought. The red ghost martial cultivator's figure flit by, and the edge of his blade pressed against the side of the girl's neck. He laughed evilly. If you want to do a good deed, then fuck off. Otherwise, I will slit open her throat. Ah. The girl's complexion was deathly pale. Su Xing, please save me. How does she know me? Su Xing stared blankly, and Suwen and Yan Yizhen cast expressions of astonishment and doubt. When the ghost martial cultivator saw this, he was even more pleased with himself. So you know this person. This is even better. Hand that girl over to me, otherwise I will kill her. Fuck. Who are you? Su Xing said. How could this woman be all boobs but no brains? What was she doing calling out his name at this time? The other had even thought they were rather close. I am Kong, 3. My grandfather is the Taoist Songjing. He called me to come find you. The girl's flowery expression lost its color. This time Su Xing hesitated. What was it that this old man had nothing better to do than call for his own granddaughter to find him? Quickly hand her over to me, or else I will kill her. The ghost martial cultivator's blade edge already began to stir. What did this count as? Su Xing glanced at Chai's Sakura, then looked again at that Kong. He asked to make certain. Are you truly the Taoist Songjing's granddaughter? Fuck her, hurry and hand her over to me. The ghost martial cultivator angrily said. Su Xing secretly gathered a blooming water divine thunder, his mind rapidly devising countermeasures. It would be better to let Sakura-chan go with him in order to not hurt that big sister. Chai's Sakura shyly said. Forget that she was but 7 or 8 years old. Her heart was contrarily and unexpectedly kind. When she said this, Su Xing was even more unwilling. His mind thought that since Suwen was here anyways, even if the throat was slit, she would not die. It would only hurt just that little bit. Ah! Suwen suddenly shouted in surprise. Su Xing turned around to look, and was immediately stupefied. He saw Chai's Sakura had closed her eyes, but her forehead had a purple gorgeous crest flash. As this crest circulated, a faint purple light floated. This was exactly the characteristic star crest after a Star Master and Star General signed. Star Master? Ah! When the ghost martial cultivator saw this, he abruptly threw Kong down and pounced towards Chai's Sakura. Just at this moment, a purple light lifted past his body. Taking a woman for a hostage. Ghost martial cultivators are indeed the scum of society. A cold voice suddenly sounded. Bang. The ghost martial cultivator heavily fell onto the ground. The leg of a woman stepped on his body. She swung what was in her hand, beheading the ghost martial cultivator. This unforeseen event transpired in the blink of an eye. Su Xing was astonished as he looked at her arrival. Yan Yizhen clenched his fists, already completely guarding in front of Su Xing, Aunt Monxiang. When Chai Sakura saw that woman, she drew back her lips in a smile. Aunt Monxiang? This was that nanny that set down the little girl without permission? Su Xing looked at her. This woman was even more capable and mature than he had imagined. With extremely gorgeous purple hair, a pair of amber eyes. When her brows creased, she was filled with a sharpness. When she smiled, she brimmed with maternal love. She was draped in a magnificent robe, and what was alluring was that she did not wear a bodice. She had just a red armor belly band 5 as protection with her snow-white skin laid bare. Her slender thighs were covered with purple stockings and red shorts. Su Xing estimated that chest to be a 37D at the minimum, truly violently surging waves not just in name, but also in reality. Her whole body emitted a perfume-like fragrance, and that aroma floated 100 meters. 6. What made Su Xing sense in his mind was that purple star crest on the woman's forehead, which unexpectedly mutually reflected with Chai Sakura's star general. This answer really made Su Xing too shocked, much more startled than when he originally saw the lowly and showed a combo of Bao Xiaoyu and Hanyu. The woman in front of him had a bold and powerful imposing air. The star weapon clutched in her hand was concealed in a sheet of wind, its form unable to be discerned, but judging from that sharp movement just now, her martial arts were considerably formidable. This leader ghost martial cultivator simply could not react. "You're a star general?" Su Xing asked. The woman raised the star weapon in her hand. Yan Yizhen and Ensuan completely did not hesitate to assume attack stances. "Aunt Monxiang, Big Brother Su Xing is a good person," Chai Sakura hastily said. Monxiang hefted the weapon concealed by the wind. Su Xing heard before some star generals that did not want to expose their identities often would conceal their symbolic star weapons, but some would conceal with the effects of their tools, like Monxiang, who had forged the wind concealment divine stone 7 into her weapon. This could hide the weapon's shape, and the edges of the wind could even make the weapon's attacks even sharper. However, it had a cost. In all other aspects, the star weapon would greatly lose power. But judging from the glittering stars in the wind, this star weapon was shockingly 2-star. "Thank you for just now." Monxiang's smile was very benevolent. "You are too careless, unexpectedly not concerned about your own star master?" Su Xing shook his head. "Furthermore, she is only this small." Only then did Su Xing remember to scout out her cultivation, which was Stardust late stage and awfully weak as expected. However, for a star master at only Stardust late stage, this woman displayed such violence, so it seemed this was a powerful star general. Those ghost martial cultivators wanted to mount a sneak attack. "Your servant was careless." The woman's eyes had a trace of cold light. "What remuneration would you like?" "No need. Protecting such a cute little girl is a given. It's just that you had better somewhat prepare for the star duels in the future." Su Xing reminded her, honestly somewhat displeased she had dragged a 7, 8-year-old little girl into these cruel star duels. "Sakura-chan won't separate from Aunt Monxiang." Chai Sakura puffed her cheeks. "Your servant naturally knows." Monxiang nodded. "Apologies for today's matters. Big brother, big sister, come to Kyoto 8 in the future. Sakura-chan will take you along to play." Chai Sakura blinked her adorable and big eyes. Su Xing nodded. Monxiang shook her head as she carried Chai Sakura and leapt away. Even if it was with Chai Sakura's entire face, the surging waves could not be covered. This was the first time Su Xing saw such a sexily dressed star general. This elder sister seems to have lots of motherly love. And Suan piped up. "Her martial arts are very formidable," Yan Yizhen said. Su Xing put away his train of thought, and his gaze returned to the panicked girl Kong. The girl was scared stupid where she was, having nearly died from fright just now. "You are called Kong, right? Whatever things happen in the future, calm down a bit," Su Xing asked. The girl continuously nodded her head. Recalling the purpose she came for, she took out 2 distinct items to hand over to Su Xing. One was a conical bullet, copper gold in color, and it seemed to be very ordinary. Father said that this bullet was found from within a ruin. Having been so long, it may perhaps be more useful when used with that thing of yours. There was also a work that was specially introduced, the forging of conical projectiles. Inside were recorded the forging of every type of conical bullets from ancient times to present. Although conical bullets were far from comparison to talismans, sometimes they could display usefulness at critical moments. Seeing that gun of Su Xing's required bullets, the Taoist Song Jing actually very generously gifted them to him. Please thank him for me. Su Xing smiled. And I shall leave now. Kong looked at the corpses everywhere and quickly departed, still somewhat panic-stricken. With this encounter, Su Xing did not revive his delight of Kagoshima Market Square's nightlife. He turned back his head and said to the two beauties, "Let's go back." Most high path 3 clarities field a sea of clouds was faintly discernible, and the immortal's peaks gathered superior spirit chi. An elegant man with a majestic appearance stood atop the mattress-like summit, but his attire was rather strange. A white undershirt without wearing any outerwear, that pair of eyes as simple and elegant as chrysanthemums ignored the boundless fog on this mountain, ignored this spiritual scenery, ignored this azure dragon territory's most spiritual immortal's field. He merely gazed at a girl of 14, 15 or 16 beneath a tree. The girl wore a red skirt, with her manner appearing delicate and graceful. A pair of slender white hands at this moment clasped a cyan robe. Her hand held a thin needle, piercing beautifully, deftly flipping and flying. A look showed it was the outerwear the man had taken off. A green rainbow splashed over. The man raised his head and saw an elegant-looking youth with eyes like clear stars descend before him. That youth aimed a glance at the girl sewing beneath the tree, his expression a tranquility that completely lacked ripples. "Senior brother Jinyuan, if your robes are damaged, you can exchange them. The Jade Clothing Palace, too, has many treasures that are certainly much better than this ordinary robe." The youth deferentially spoke. Who could have thought that the man wearing only a white undershirt before him was surprisingly the one known as the Azure Dragon Territory's #1 Star Master, Xie Jinyuan. "She likes it, so I leave it to her. Some things cannot be changed out." Xie Jinyuan's temperament was refined, his expression flat as water. Qingxian III really does not understand. Why would senior brother sign a contract with her? The man asked. The Azure Dragon Territory called Xie Jinyuan the #1 Star Master. One reason came from his strength, and the other judged from the background behind him. So much so that people felt the Azure Dragon Territory's #1 school's stunning genius certainly had to be a fierce star of outstanding martial force. However, these people's fantasies returned to being fantasies. Who would have thought things would be completely the opposite? Everyone says star generals protect the contractor, yet Jinyuan actually wants to do the opposite. Xie Jinyuan lightly smiled. Qingxian was blank. He covered his lips, not speaking. "Junior brother Bing Qingxian, what is the matter this time?" Xie Jinyuan smiled and asked. Bing Qingxian then remembered the purpose he came here for. The purple star grade birth outline already is about to begin. The headmaster wants to let Qingxian invite senior brother to go on a trip to the most clear hall, to discuss the matter of plundering the purple star birth outline. It would be best to leave everything to the headmaster. "I shall inform the headmaster." Bing Qingxian stepped onto Swordlight, glanced at the young girl, and inwardly shaking his head, the green light shook, instantly disappearing into the horizon. At this time, the girl beneath the tree waved her hand at him. Xie Jinyuan made a shallow smile, paced around and then walked towards her. The 3 clarities field, with its windless sea of clouds, was tranquil as if nothing had ever happened. "Su Xing, this young lady really missed you." Inside the immortal's abode, Lining Mei, Wuxia and Shi Yuan had finally returned. Upon meeting, the thief star emotionally rushed straight at him. Su Xing embraced her, feeling the warmth of the girl's lovable body. Shi Yuan this time raised her head and kissed Su Xing, stealing a march on Wuxia to use a passionate kiss to let out her feelings, leaving Wuxia helpless. When it came to her turn, Wuxia actually also radiated passion all around. The two's saliva became a thread, and the girl's charming eyes were like silk, making the sisters to the side stupefied. When he faced Lining Mei, the girl nevertheless did not let herself go like they did. "Young master, please be a bit more dignified in front of the sisters." Lining Mei was actually nervous. Su Xing chuckled, blocking her waist with a hug. Only afterwards did he ask, "How was this month?" A bumper harvest. Let this young lady think. The Heavenly Master Ruins, South Garrison Royal Tomb, Wind Spirit Mountain, Second Dragon Mountain. And there were 15 altogether. Shi Yuan replied in high spirits. This is some of the harvest. Wu Xinjie waved her hand. Several dozen items floated in the air. There were artifacts, talismans, pills, concentrates, ores, and everything else that could be thought up of. This galaxy artifact is called mountain-breaking engraving. 5. And there is also this green spirit jade tortoise pill. 6. Wu Xinjie introduced these one by one, and the things that came from this ruin naturally were considerable. The mountain-breaking engraving was a galaxy middle-stage artifact, with destructive power that was terrifying. Whenever it was raised, wind and thunder would be brilliant, and all mountains would topple over. It was an extremely powerful artifact used to break defenses. The green spirit jade tortoise pill reportedly used the ancient spirit beast green spirit jade tortoise's soul in its forging. It was a tool refinement master's panacea. After ingestion, the tool refinement heart flame would advance several grades, and it so happened that it could be used to nurture Su Xing's heavenly water heart flame. And there was also that. What interested Su Xing the most was still those secret works. However, these secret works were all soul techniques, escape techniques and sword chants, which had no use whatsoever to the current Su Xing. Last were the talismans. Territory-breaking talisman. Su Xing was stunned. A supreme-grade talisman. It can break any forbid dance and magic circle. The materials to forge the 5-element sword are too demanding. Lin Yingmei wrinkled her brow. Yes, young lord actually can forge a wood type, but only one. He would still be missing 11 swords. 9. Wu Xinjie was very worried. The 5-element sword materials were rare and priceless. Even if he forged the wood type, for the other 11 swords, he perhaps would need more than 100 billion liang of gold in order to buy Putua black bamboo sand. And those evil-suppressing gem bamboos, you could not purchase them even if you had more gold. Even if these rare and precious items were not mentioned, it was just a 9th-rank heaven-tearing gold dragon that Su Xing currently could not attain to forge the metallic-type flying sword. Money. Su Xing did not expect that the several billion he had was still this poor and destitute. Forget it, let's think of a way again in the future. Since the heavenly spirit earthly purple star 5-element sword at hand, heaven always never bars our way. Su Xing said. Can't we still use the purple star writ to create 2 immortals' abodes? At the time 2 are opened, let's see whether or not the land of the immortals' abode will send anything. It can't be said for sure if there would be evil-suppressing gem bamboo. Since it could send a life-extending peach, evil-suppressing gem bamboo was not out of the question. Wu Xinjie also thought so, but the purple star writ pendant had a restriction on establishing immortals' abodes. The distance between each other was required to be 10 million li or greater. She feared that only the Black Turtle territory could would, and this was yet another thorny affair. I have several things to gift you all. Chatting a bit, Su Xing took out 3 items. First of all, he gave Silver Blade to Wu Xinjie. Young lord. Wu Xinjie was stunned, and even Lin Yingmei was blank. She naturally knew the importance of this strange item to Su Xing. From the first time they met, she saw Su Xing always carefully cherished it. Silver Blade is not very useful to me right now. Xinjie, you take it for self-protection. Although this isn't a star weapon, you can use it. Using your rank 3rd star energy to use Silver Blade is for the best. Last time at the Grindstone Mountain, you used it very well. Su Xing smiled. Xinjie cannot have such an important thing. Wu Xinjie shook her head. Is it more important than your own safety? This deliberate burst of Su Xing's actually made Wu Xinjie somewhat moved. Wu Xinjie no longer declined. Carefully taking Silver Blade, she was happy from the bottom of her heart. Loving it too much to part from it, the other sisters were quite envious. Su Xing then took out a pair of green feather boots. He had used the previous green-feathered storm's feathers to specially refine them. Light as goose feathers, swift as a gale, to a robber as nimble as the thief star. This simply was an outstanding tool. This was even the first item that Su Xing refined after becoming a tool refinement master. Shi Yuan particularly cherished these. Lastly, it was Lin Yingmei's turn. Young master, no need for your servant. Lin Yingmei shook her head. Yingmei, I'm afraid you must receive this. Su Xing took out the item. It was none other than the material Lin Yingmei needed to advance her star weapon to 2-star. 6 pieces of daybreak frost and snow essence and 40 liang of relic blade sand. Young master, you collected it all? Lin Yingmei quaked. The daybreak frost and snow essence certainly was not easy to find. Master specially went on a trip to the Kagoshima market square to help Yingmei do so, and he spent many funds. Yin Yizhen opened her mouth. Your servant definitely will protect young master to the death. Lin Yingmei's expression was firm. Su Xing laughed aloud. I always say this, but I truly do not wish to let you protect me. Yingmei's star weapon has reached 2-star actually very quickly. Sure Yuan sighed. What are you still missing, tell me? Let's go next time, and we'd better advance to 2-star before the purple star grade birth outline begins. Su Xing said. Then Xinjie indeed will trouble young lord. Wu Xinjie covered her smile. Then they chatted a bit about their experiences this past month. When Su Xing all of a sudden recalled that Wu Song, he said to Lin Yingmei, Yingmei, I have some things I want to talk to you about. And what does young master wish to say? You girls won't mind if I have a chat alone with Yingmei? Su Xing asked the beauties. Of course we will not mind. Yingmei is very shy, so we will not be to the side. Young lord, you must take good care of Yingmei. For the past month, little sister Yingmei has been a very big help. Wu Xinjie ambiguously said. Lin Yingmei was somewhat embarrassed. Su Xing rolled his eyes. Don't scare Yingmei, it's just proper business. Lin Yingmei nodded. Young master, is something the matter? Su Xing thought for a moment then said. Yingmei, do you know Wu Song? Lin Yingmei showed a trace of surprise. Young master, why are you asking this? Suddenly, the panther head's expression became grim. Is young master saying she was hostile to you? Seeing from Lin Yingmei's expression, the relationship between the two was not shallow. Su Xing smiled and said. On the contrary, she actually helped me once. Su Xing then briefly spoke about his encounter with the Holy Lord of Draconic Demon. The danger within was naturally omitted without mention, and he actually admired that cold and elegant Wu Song. Only then did Lin Yingmei's expression apparently relax. She said complexly, Your servant never expected she would already have obtained her star beast. Young master had better still be careful of her. What's the relationship between you two? Su Xing curiously asked. Wu Song and your servant can be considered intimate friends. Some time after the star duels commenced, we became close friends. Because your servant and she were of that sort of temperament. Saying this, Lin Yingmei's tone slightly stopped. Su Xing knew her meaning and finished for her. That doesn't want to sign contracts? Lin Yingmei went. And she continued. Before your servant met young master, this was indeed so. Perhaps she feels your servant betrayed her. However, your servant asks that young master be at ease. If Wu Song dares to be hostile to young master, Yingmei pledges her life to fight with her to the end. The girl's tone was cold, completely without the least bit of falsity. Su Xing's heart shivered when he saw that sort of resolute expression, for this type of half-contained sentiment would move anyone. Su Xing approached her, gazing downwards toward Lin Yingmei. The girl's gaze showed a trace of panic. What, are you afraid to see me after 1 month of not seeing each other? Su Xing joked. Lin Yingmei shook her head. Yingmei, did you miss me? Su Xing made a thin smile. Came the soft, almost inaudible answer. Really? Your servant, as young master's star general, ought to be concerned about young master. Lin Yingmei puffed out her chest, righteous and imposing. Su Xing was happy. His hand felt the girl's cheek, a teasing posture. Lin Yingmei's expression was somewhat nervous. If other people saw this scene, perhaps they would doubt their own eyes. Liangshan Continent's great and famous majestic star panther had unexpectedly was showing a girly blush of embarrassment. Although it was slight, it was extremely arousing, making Su Xing's mind helplessly sweep away. Unable to restrain his emotions, he said, I really missed you too, Yingmei. Do you know what happens next? The sisters are still outside, Wu. Lin Yingmei's words had not fell when Su Xing already lowered his head and kissed the girl's soft red lips. Lin Yingmei went stiff, but both her hands somewhat helplessly grabbed Su Xing's clothes. Under the provocations of Su Xing's tongue, she could not help but kiss back. The sound of tongues sucking resounded inside the immortal's abode. After the French kiss ended, Lin Yingmei's air was like gossamer, both her cheeks a dizzy red, a strand of thread-like saliva hanging from each other's tongues. Since you are such intimate sisters, if you two have a falling out, I certainly would be in pain. Su Xing said. Young master is what is most important. Lin Yingmei replied. Actually, there is a way to get things done once and for all. Just let young lord receive that Wu song. A charming voice came from outside the immortal's abode. Wu Xinjie evidently heard the two's conversation. With Su Xing's thoughts, the door of the immortal's abode opened, and as expected, he saw several beauties laying in front of the door. At this time, Su Xing and Lin Yingmei still maintained their intimate embrace position. Su Xing's hand was even placed on the girl's upraised butt, which made sure Yuan open her eyes wide. Su Xing fake coughed and separated from Yingmei. Xinjie, this type of joke isn't allowed. I definitely do not dare receive the tiger-fighting Wu song. Su Xing was a hypocrite on this. The harm star was cool and elegant without peer. If a man did not have this idea, that would be strange, particularly if they knew that the relationship between her and Lin Yingmei was this good. Su Xing had also thought of this turning an enemy into a friend, but to be able to scare off the Holy Lord of Draconic Demon. This was actually the first time Su Xing did not have confidence. Lin Yingmei's worried brows deeply creased. Clearly, she also did not feel Su Xing could receive and capture her. After the previous generations, Wu Song ruled Maiden Mountain by force. As she told your servant before, she intends to bring about the forging of her predecessor's 10-star destined weapon. By her disposition, she would rather die than be subject to humiliation. Wu Xinjie was only arbitrarily cracking a joke. She also knew that to become the lord of the previous generation's star duels, if the current Wu Song actually signed a contract, it was an absolute disgrace no matter how it was put. Young lord, we should still discuss the matter of the purple star birth outline. It seems there are still a few days before it begins. Su Xing was also preparing for this. And sure, Yuan already went to investigate, and Xinjie fears that events are somewhat not too encouraging. Wu Xinjie sighed. What did Yuan discover? Sure, Yuan said. This young lady conducted hidden investigations inside several large schools. Half of the current 10 great sects have already reached agreements to cooperate in robbing and killing for the purple star birth outline. Galaxy and above to Supervoid and below will all be present. Supervoid cultivators and below. What about supercluster cultivators? Su Xing wrinkled his brow. This certainly was troublesome. Sure, Yuan also showed a vexed expression. Furthermore, these large schools are joining hands with the sects. All scattered star cultivator will keep away at all costs, otherwise, they will be killed without pardon. The biggest trouble is still the supercluster cultivators. Those old monsters will make a move. To snatch the birth outline from under a supercluster cultivator will certainly not be simple. Yan Yizhen's tone was solemn. Yes, Xinjie investigated documents about previous birth outline plunders. Those who obtained the purple star chest all had a common characteristic, and that was all of them were supercluster cultivators. In robbing and killing for the chest, even a star master should not dare to act blindly without thinking. This cannot be helped. The powers of supercluster cultivators currently are too great, far from being something that a second-phase star master can contend with. And Suwen said, could it be we are just giving up? Lin Yingmei's brows wrinkled together, and Suwen was somewhat anxious. Big brother, this is so dangerous, it would be better to give up. Although the birth treasure outline has recorded the weaknesses of Maiden Mountain's star generals, neither is it very important. Suwen has also investigated this birth treasure outline, and its usage in previous star duels was not completely advantageous. Even Su Xing was somewhat hesitant. If several dozen supercluster stage cultivators robbed and killed for the chest, he definitely did not have any chances. Particularly, if he exhausted the star energy of a trump card astral treasure the likes of the profound star barrier. He would be without a guarantee even more. Young lord, there is actually no need to be pessimistic. Xinjie has a plan, and we can seize the birth outline. Wu Xinjie laughed. Knowledge star, what means do you have? Lin Yingmei asked. Means Xinjie does have, however, Xinjie is still short of one very important thing. What thing? Everyone curiously asked. A magic weapon that creates victory, one that can let young lord be safe and in good health regardless of whatever attack or force he meets. I'm afraid the profound star barrier won't do. Su Xing shook his head. The profound star barrier is only an earthly fiend-grade astral treasure, insufficient to render young lord safe from any attack or force. Wu Xinjie shook her head. What she needed was something that could be absolutely safe. Does this sort of thing exist? Even if there is a certainty, its background will be great, and we won't necessarily obtain it. Su Xing was helpless. Wu Xinjie winked. Xinjie just happens to know a sister that has it. When the knowledge star said this, the doubtful sisters immediately saw the light, and revealed shocked and suspicious expressions. Don't tell me we're going to find her? But she won't submit. Just who is this? Su Xing was confused. One of the richest people in Liangshan. Wu Xinjie giggled. Don't bring her up. What richest? This young lady sees that she is the stingiest person under all of heaven. Shi Yuan twitched her lips, objecting. She has completely wasted her old reputation. Seeing her say as such, Su Xing was, in fact, even more curious. Su Xing very interestedly looked at these legendary star generals. He was eager to give it a try. Then let's go take a look. Then little sister Yingmei should remain at the immortal's abode to upgrade her star weapon to 2-star. Little sister Suwen should stay also. Too many people going will instead be unsuitable. Lin Yingmei and Suwen did not have any opinions. I also won't go. Shi Yuan shook her head. Little Yi and Xinjie shall accompany young lord then. After confirming, Su Xing then immediately set out. On the road, he inquired with Xinjie the gossip of this richest star general under all of heaven, because it seemed the beauties present were seemingly very envious of her reputation. This was ordinarily very rare. Speaking of that star general, not only was she the most enviable of the 108 star maidens, she was actually the most envied in all of the Azure Dragon territory, because this sister was the sole star general of the 108 generals that could separate herself from Star Duel's regulations. She did not have any military force, yet she was superb on the Maiden Mountain. All of the star maidens would bow to her. If several words were used to describe her, she could be said as such. Wealth equivalent to a nation. 2. Contempt of authority and law. 3. Any star cultivator was like dust in her eyes, not worth a mention. Even if it was the Azure Dragon territory's most powerful Emperor Liang, financial strength, or military force, she could easily spurn them all. She had been publicly accepted as Liangshan's richest person. The 8th generation star general's accumulated wealth could reportedly cram the 9 dragon seas, Liangshan's largest oceans. If an exact number was needed, in accordance with Liangshan's, Suanzi Swanjing calculating wealth in units of 10,000, 100 million, 10 to the power of 12, 10 to the power of 16, 10 to the power of 20, 10 to the power of 24, 10 to the power of 28, 10 to the power of 32, 10 to the power of 36, 10 to the power of 40, 10 to the power of 44, 10 and amp, 48.5. If measured according to the uncountable units, her wealth reportedly reached levels of 10 to the power of 28. Using Su Xing's everyday comprehension, that was more than 1 trillion. Su Xing nearly choked. This star general was rather too wealthy. Fortunately, many of the items of Liangshan's cultivators could not be measured with gold. Otherwise, by this sort of astronomical wealth, even directly advancing star weapons to 10-star was but a simple task. Why does this star general have so much money? Su Xing really felt that man-to-man, this was too excessive. That is because of the second reason, contempt of authority and law. Wu Xinjie smiled. Contempt of authority and law. Yes. Although she is a star general, she will not participate in any generation of star duels. On the contrary, because of her natural hobbies, she is especially interested in engaging in business and hoarding gold. Accumulating over the millennia, It can be well imagined how massive this wealth is. Could it be no one has the idea to fight her? Su Xing felt disbelief when he heard this. It was rather too unfair for this sort of wealthy star general to be so comfortably off. This happens to be the reason we are going to see her, to borrow something. Wu Xinjie grinned. Saying this much, Su Xing suddenly remembered he still did not know just what kind of person this star general was, to unexpectedly be so aloof. Because she is too wealthy, outsiders all like to call her noblewoman wealth. 6. Noblewoman wealth. Su Xing sweated. Sangzhou, Harsh Sea County. Great Circle Mountain 2, had a great circle castle, which was located deep within the forest. Like a hidden dragon, the city walls encircled it. Like a tiger, the entire Great Circle Castle was an otherworldly existence in Harsh Sea County. The 10 li within was a forbidden area, and what made people astonished was that this castle was forged completely out of gold rock materials. Every sunrise, the thing was a dazzling sight. Great Circle Mountain seemingly was surrounded in an aura, and the commoners down the mountain would all prostrate themselves in deference. The Great Circle Castle's master had been described as Liangshan's wealthiest rich woman. That was correct. She was exactly the noble star, Little Whirlwind Chai Jin. 3. Su Xing was on his riding sword looking at this sort of developed golden city from afar. If he originally half-doubted Wu Xinjia's words, at this moment, he believed nearly completely. The castle that used gold in its creation had a style that was unavoidably too big. The Great Circle Castle's inner 10 li had a forbidden space for bid dance. Su Xing could only set down the flying sword and tread into this Great Circle Mountain. Approximately a moment after, he arrived outside the Great Circle Castle. Standing at close range in front of this castle, it seemed even more exaggerated. Its dazzling gold pierced people's eyes such that they could not be opened. Wu Xinjie entered a warrant talisman, and then they waited outside. If this noble star is so rich, why wouldn't she participate in the star duels? Idle and bored, Su Xing asked Wu Xinjie very confusedly. Several trillion in wealth, although it could not buy first-rate precious items, it could still buy a great majority of things. The so-called enough ants may bite an elephant to death. Accumulating enough persistence, even sand grains could make a tower, and did not lose out to a kind of terrifying power. Does young lord know why she would break away from the star duels? Wu Xinjie did not answer, but asked a question in return. Why? That is because her destined star weapon is a red ink iron certificate. 5. Wu Xinjie slightly smiled. Su Xing stared blankly. He naturally had heard of this iron certificate inscribed in red ink. In the water margin, the Little Whirlwind was the posterity of the first wife of Emperor Shizong, also known as Chai Rong, of the later Zhou. Because of the Chunxiao mutiny, Emperor Taizu of Song made an imperial edict conferring the red ink iron certificate to the Chai family, a gold medal of death exemption. The red ink iron certificate is indeed a super powerful star weapon. Not only can it allow her to break away from the star duels, this astral treasure 6 has a very big ability that is exactly to defend against any attack in this world. This is too defiant of the natural order. Su Xing was stunned. Wu Xinjie shook her head, countering. This has a price. The price's premise is that she cannot participate in the star duels. If she participates, the red ink iron certificate loses its death exemption ability. Then her destined star weapon naturally loses its usefulness. And without this star weapon, Chai Jin certainly is thoroughly deposed. Su Xing understood clearly. Losing her destined star weapon if she participated in the star duels was a price indeed too great. Even if she used those gold and silver to form a frightening force, it did not have any significance because entering Maiden Mountain would not permit you to bring any random influences inside. What was relied upon was individual ability. Although riches could be otherworldly, when things reached that situation, perhaps it would be a joke. Chai Jin also has a very big hobby, which is that she is very fond of hoarding gold. Whatever it is, she must convert it into gold to hoard. Do not see her as being very wealthy, but as a completely stingy cheapskate. Wu Xinjie giggled. Where did all this wealth come from? Su Xing inquisitively asked. Business engagements. Reportedly, Chai-Jin has 50% of the Azure Dragon Territory's gold mines, 20% of its purple gold ore, 5% of its white ore and other many precious stones and stone materials. Besides this, she has many additional stores, Wuxia said. This is also a legend, but it should be right. Actually, this still did not make Su Xing any more amazed. Legend said that Chai-Jin the Little Whirlwind was known as the Great Circle. The star cultivators under the banner of the Great Circle was more than 100,000, with weapons and armor at more than 1,000,000. She had relationships with all of the Azure Dragon Territory's 10 great sects, so even the Great Liang dynasty was nearly ashamed of its inferiority. If she did not have this special identity as a star general, then perhaps Emperor Liang would be restless. Awesome. Su Xing praised in admiration. To be able to trade gold to this scale truly made him greatly expand his horizons. However, since she has no needs or wants, and the red ink iron certificate is that important to her, would she lend the red ink iron certificate to us? Su Xing was doubtful. Although Chai-Jin is stingy to the extreme, can young lord guess what her innate skill known as help the needy for justice, 7 is? Wuxia could not help but smile. Su Xing guessed that it was probably to lend things, lend money, and the like. The fact and his imagination were about the same. The name of Chai-Jin's innate skill was called Help the Needy for Justice, where the so-called for justice was to be able to lend the red ink iron certificate once, and the help the needy was to lend some money to the other party. This kind of innate skill could only be used in each star duel stage once, or else the courtesy of any help to others outside of help the needy for justice would be determined to be participating in the star duels by the Liangshan maiden, thereby stripping away the red ink iron certificate. After hearing Wu Xinjia's words, Su Xing actually was even more curious about how otherworldly this Liangshan maiden was, that she could actually even accomplish this. After understanding the gossip of Chai-Jin, woman in palace dress walked out of the Great Circle Castle. Her hand held a palace light, and her good-looking face was expressionless. The official has an invitation. Please follow slave servant Yi. 8 thanks. The 3 people followed along. Without mentioning the golden bright and dazzling exterior, the interior was also absolutely luxurious. Porcelain, gold bars, ancient texts, household utensils, and more were all priceless. Flying dragons and carved phoenixes, the maids in the castle were like clouds. Su Xing slightly explored, and unexpectedly found their cultivations all to be uniformly galaxy stage. Seeing their dignified bearing, their practiced technique, it was just like they were not all just show. Furthermore, this Yuya maid was galaxy late stage. Su Xing thought, this noblewoman Chai is incredible. If she participated in the star duels, perhaps she would have the status of the master of a sect. If she actually participated, then everything might as well be meaningless. Walking past a room of a spread-out scarlet carpet, Su Xing entered an expansive main hall. Inside the hall, phoenix pillars coiled around, chiseled out of pure gold. Some red wing tasseled curtains were suspended. With a careful look, these surprisingly were made of fire phoenix feathers. Although its spiritual influence had been lost, the flames were still dazzling. In the middle was a phoenix chair, with only a remarkably beautiful woman laying upon it. That girl had dragon brows and phoenix eyes, white teeth and vermilion red lips. Her long, light purple hair hung in strands over her chest, suspending red precious stones. Her hair was also stuck with herbs, and she wore a water blue and pink 100-pleat shirt revealing her shoulders and cleavage. Her white bodice with gilded edges was exposed to the outside, and it seemed to be an astral treasure. A ring sash inlaid with precious jewels was tied around her waist, her snow-white thighs faintly discernible underneath her long gown. Her feet were white, and her hand held a golden thread feather fan. 9. Her expression was languid, undisciplined, yet she carried a sort of innate respect upon her forehead. The word queen seemed to have been made to her measurements. What a peerless beauty! One of Chai-Jin's hands played with the fur of a completely black like shadow demon beast laying upon the phoenix chair, her lips seemingly in a smile yet not. Jinji. Tenyuya, you can withdraw. 11. It has been very long since I have chatted with my sisters, and 2 of them at that. Chai-Jin called out, and the 2 palace-garbed women then deferentially retreated. He he, noblewoman Chai-jin, you are indeed leisurely and free. Truly, it makes elder sister very envious. Wuxia sat on a chair. Each person has a life, and each has its ups and downs. This palace 12 is somewhat bored of counting gold every day. Compared to you all who can ascend that maiden mountain, that is what is truly enviable. Since you have come here, let us tell each other our true names. This palace is called Chai-ling, 13. It is better to avoid this Chai-jin, for this palace certainly feels it is displeasing to the ear. The little whirlwind's smile seemed to both exist and not exist. Wuxia and Yin Yizhen also announced their respective names. How extraordinary, to be able to simultaneously sign the Knowledge Star and Skillful Star. Chai-ling stowed the fan. Her slender jade thighs lifted off the couch, and her bare feet curiously walked towards Su Xing due to Chai-ling wearing an exposed bodice. Her towering twin peaks seemed to want to spill out. These swaying lotus steps shook and shook, waves that were dazzling. What are you called? From which sect? Chai-jin's hand hooked Su Xing's chin. Su Xing took her hand away, hooking onto it himself. This one beneath you is Su Xing, and the unwed we are single. 14 Wuxia laughed, thinking the dallying Su Xing was still inexperienced some. Chai-jin did not mind this sort of appearance of being assailed by a man. Slightly wiping the corner of her mouth, her smile pondered deep meanings. A charmer. Do you have interest in remaining by elder sister's side? Elder sister can let you have glory, splendor, wealth, rank and beautiful women seemingly like clouds. It would be better for you to come with us. We guarantee a lustful night every night. Each new climax replaced by another, such that you would wish you were dead. Su Xing chuckled. Wuxia went, puffed, and in her heart said, Su Xing is actually too good at telling stories. Even the Yin Yizhen to the side could not help but slightly smile. Your mouth sure can talk. Chai-ling looked over Su Xing, then once again returned onto the phoenix chair. What business do you have of this palace? You must have come for the purple star birth outline. Precisely. As you have heard, our young master is without a sect or school. These 10 great sects will plunder the birth outline despicably with evil methods, so elder sister wanted to use the red ink iron certificate. Wuxia spoke forthrightly. It cannot be. Your young master is virtueless and incompetent. How could he sign 2 great star generals, especially Yan Qing? You always cannot give your body to a man completely lacking a background. Chai-ling smiled. Yin Yizhen sternly said. Master also is without a school. Slave servant also is willing to serve him. A bright light flashed past Chai-ling's eyes, coincidentally laughing. How interesting. What do you say? Chai-ling, there is no problem, right? This help the needy for justice can only be utilized once in each stage. It would be too pitiful if it was not used in this stage. Wu Xinji said. There is no issue with help the needy for justice, but this palace shall not lend it to people without cause or reason. Chai-ling opened the fan, covering her red lips. Her expression was somewhat crafty. Wuxia had already foresaw this. Calmly she said. Little sister, you may speak without hesitation, but we certainly do not have any money. You dare turn to this palace to borrow the red ink iron certificate without money. Knowledge Star, you truly can crack a joke. The noble star little whirlwind Chai-ling's attitude was graceful as a civet. She indolently reclined on the phoenix chair. Her expression gazed at Su Xing, indistinctly carrying a trace of eroticism. This palace loves money the most. 100 billion. And this palace shall uphold justice. Chai-ling said. 100 billion? We do not have even 1 billion. Wuxia shook her head. So it is like this. For the sake of elder sister Knowledge Star visiting the Great Circle Castle for sightseeing, then this palace shall give you another chance. We do not have money. Wuxia said. This palace does not want your money. Chai-ling elegantly pointed at Su Xing, carrying a bit of gracefulness and charm. The Great Circle Castle has never had a man stay a night. This palace is actually somewhat lonely. How about letting your man remain at the Great Circle Castle with this palace? Whenever you return this red ink iron certificate, your man shall then be returned to you. This naked request of Chai Ling's truly made Su Xing open wide his eyes. Are you serious? Does this palace seem to be fond of telling jokes? Chai Ling, could it be you feel I am that sort of person who enjoys sensual pleasures while leaving his own women to go risk life and limb? Su Xing furrowed his brow. The little whirlwind replied matter-of-factly, her eyes flashing, the corner of her mouth lifting into a smile. Is this not how it should be? This palace's great circle castle will truly make you wish you were dead. Su Xing coldly chuckled. Little sister Chai Ling, elder sister urges you to not joke any further. Our young master is indeed not as frivolous as you believe. Wu Xinjie was helpless. Chai Ling's eyebrows rose, somewhat displeased. Knowledge Star, you are unable to produce 100 billion. And neither are you able to let your man stay. You are making this palace frustrated. This palace is truly uninterested in this type of help the needy for justice, without benefit. Could it be that even little sister Chai Ling would waste this opportunity, and is unwilling to spend money? This buying and selling of losses is certainly unlike the business the noble star engages in. Chai Ling's eyebrows rose. She lightly bit her red lips, her hand tenderly stroking the collapsed demon beast, the golden thread feather fan gently dancing. Wu Xinjie was calm and composed, an appearance that showed she planned in advance. Knowledge Star, you indeed are eloquent. This palace wants one night. Chai Ling muttered to herself for a moment, then lightly laughed. The Great Circle Castle is honored with the presence of two long-lost sisters. It would be more appropriate for this palace to properly receive guests for a night, and make a reply once again tomorrow. Wu Xinjie also knew that as far as the stingy noble star was concerned, this already was a very big concession. She nodded and did not object. Chai Ling clapped her hands. Jinji and Yuya entered the main hall, announcing themselves. They saw a group of women dressed in classical golden long gowns walk into the room in a line holding long swords in their hands. They were dressed rather elegantly, and the more than dozen beautiful young girls orderly stood in the hall. Truly beautiful women that were like clouds. The legendary skillful star is accomplished in the arts, proficient in all manners of speech, dance, poetry, song and more. Since it is not so easy to have the wanderer honor others with her presence, we wonder how is your sword dance? Care for a bout? The sword dance. Long established since ancient times, the sword served as a weapon dissolved into a dance performance. It could be said to be an extremely clever composition. I shall refuse on little Yi's behalf. Su Xing definitely did not want to let his maid engage in some dance. If she were to dance, it would only be for him alone. Young Lord Su Xing is very angry. Could it be the skillful star does not help her own young master do a few things? 2. You have a request of this palace, yet you do not do anything. This is not good, is it? Chai Ling dully said, her words somewhat threatening. Slave servant shall give master one song. Yan Yizhen gazed at Su Xing. A pure white guzheng, 3, was placed on the center of the phoenix dances to the heavens hall. Yan Yizhen sat on the ground, her skirt neatly spread out. When her lily-white hands really moved with spry motions, the maid simultaneously seemingly let her bangs fly. Her vermilion pupils paused, her thumb shook, and suddenly, the string let loose a vibrating resonance. It was as if it returned to those olden times where romance was in the air. The dancing girls crowded Yan Yizhen's surroundings, taking sword dance positions. The girls began to raise their swords, paced, and moved in a dance. The swords and tassels were firm and gentle perfectly together, full of changes, making the sword dance very lively. They had passed through a long practice, their sword dance posture and movement free, easy and disciplined. They appeared bright and colorful, their movements swift and nimble. When they were still, their postures were steady, sharp and bright, rich with beauty. Their traveling sword movements were continuous and uninterrupted, like a long and rainbow roaming dragon, head and tail in close succession. They were then also like moving clouds and flowing water, well proportioned with a certain toughness. Not only were the bodies of the matching girls delightful to the eyes, that cold light glinting on the swords was even more like it could kill enemies at any moment. When Yan Yizhen slowly played the first rippling the string, the hall was enveloped with the vast sound of the instrument. Forget that the maid was cold as ice. She indeed was brimming over with talent. Regarding the guzheng, it was entirely within her element. A great deal of techniques were used by her casual pinches. The guzheng went from dull to quick, a fast torrential rain speeding along. It seemingly made people see two armies engaged in a decisive battle. The sound moving heaven and earth, and the roof tiles seemed to fly and drop. Upon closer inspection, there was the sound of metal drums, of swords and crossbows, of men and horses, making the listeners exert themselves, then frightening them afterwards. So touching in this way was the music. Those young women could not help but dance along with the music. With long swords in hand, they appeared to be swimming dragons, their bodies handsome and wonderful. The originally very graceful sword dance passed through Yan Yizhen's accompanying music, and it immediately was even more prominently imposing and majestic, vastly spectacular. Yan Yizhen's expression was earnest. At this time, she brimmed with a peace and an entirely different imposing air. Su Xing could not help but be enchanted, and he did not discover that the little whirlwind Chai Ling to the side was casting a meaningful glance at him. The night's color was deep and dense, the moon bright and soft. A corridor of the great circle castle. Su Xing opened his eyes and crawled out from bed. He did not disturb Wu Xinjie and Yan Yizhen, instead walking by himself to the Phoenix Dance Hall. The gentle lighting made the Phoenix Dance Hall especially tender. A queen-like beauty sat before a seat with 2 fingers on her lips, half charming, half noble. In her surroundings, 2 young women wearing magnificent golden robes held palace lamps in their hands, not moving in the slightest. Chai Ling, what business do you have using sound transmission to see me at night? Could it be that you actually want a lustful night? Su Xing was not surprised to see her waiting appearance. Being flippant and insincere once before this palace is enough. Chai Ling dully said. What's the matter, to insist that we talk alone? Su Xing shrugged. Chai Ling opened the golden feather fan, covering the shallow smile on her red lips. This palace is only very curious about the man that could sign the knowledge star and skillful star. It's a nose and 2 eyes anyways. Su Xing sat in front of her, bored. When you speak, it is very interesting, but a sweet enough mouth is not sufficient to make the knowledge star and skillful star serve you. This palace can see it. The feelings Wu Xinjie has for you are deeply rooted. Even if she were to give her body up to you, she is apparently willing. That skillful star wanderer's outer appearance is cold, yet she is able to invest everything into you. If this palace has not guessed wrongly, if you wanted to take Yan Yizhen's virginity, she would not refuse either. This arrogant queen of a Chai Ling's gaze was very sinister. They had barely met face to face, yet she lay bare in a few words that subtle relationship. Furthermore, these so explicit and direct words of hers made Su Xing startled over and over. His ears heated up, for he was somewhat embarrassed. What do you want to say? To make a star general willingly hand over her red pellet, 5 for a star cultivator. This certainly is rare to see in 1,000 years. This palace wants to say, since they are so inclined to you as their man, should you not do some things? Su Xing's brows were even deeper. To borrow the red ink iron certificate is very simple. This palace suddenly thought of something. If you take the virginities of these 2 sisters together, this palace shall lend it to you. Chai Ling quietly laughed. You actually stayed inside this castle for too long, and wound up becoming a pervert. Hearing that she took Wu Xinjie and Yan Yizhen's virginities to be a business transaction, Su Xing's heart was somewhat a bit furious. What? You dared to speak of yourself as a man of lustful nights every night, with each new climax replaced by another to this palace. Could it be that this is not an extremely rare and honorable opportunity? Chai Ling did not become angry. Her smile, as before, was brimming with a dallying manner. Right now is actually an extremely rare good opportunity. How about I let your majesty first taste a flavor that would make you wish you were dead right now? Su Xing's eyes slightly narrowed. Jinji and Yuya lifted their heads. Those ice-cold eyes had surprise. So it turns out you are afraid of the harm that taking their virginities will have on them? Chai Ling had an epiphany, suddenly instructing the Yuya beside her. Su Xing was curious about what she was going to do. Not long after, Yuya returned to the hall. She held in her hands 2 bottles, one yellow, the other blue. Chai Ling threw the bottles to Su Xing, and when he held them in his hands, One bottle had a slight chill while the other had a slight warmth. Holding them in his hands, his body could not help but throb. Inside these bottles is yin-yang lovemaking powder. 7. A treasure that this palace collected. For those rare sisters that devote themselves to a star master, this is a gift to you. The woman ingests the yin powder, the man ingests the yang powder. Not only will making love greatly increase your power, complementing each other through dual cultivation, the price of a star general losing her virginity can easily be recovered. Chai Jing wore a crafty smile. How could Su Xing believe her? Heaven knew whether or not this queen was swindling him. However, Su Xing saw that these bottles was indeed rare. He stowed it away. I shall kindly receive it. As far as taking their virginities, we shall not trouble you to care about this sort of matter. Harmonious couples naturally take form one day, and such cannot be imposed. You put it so eloquently. Chai Ling covered her smile. But you do not do this, you are unwilling to do that. Not one of this palace's requests have been answered. You are too impudent. Although this palace is Liangshan's richest person, neither is this palace a philanthropist. Cha Ling's smile slightly carried ridicule. This palace shall again give you a chance. If you take the Knowledge Star's virgin part, this red ink iron certificate shall be lent to you. Even if this Knowledge Star lost her virginity, the effects are not great. This graceful queen. Cha Ling's mouth spoke of deflowering Wuxia and of virgin bodies. It truly filled Su Xing's heart with rage. Seeing that arrogant and self-important attitude of hers, he knew she was relying on her riches to make things hard for him. He sincerely wanted to see this as a joke, but Wuxia apparently was very attached to this red ink iron certificate. For her sake, Su Xing had no choice but to suppress his anger. If he had an aphrodisiac, he truly was very willing to drench this woman with it. 8. What do you have to not be happy about? This palace truly does not understand. Cha Ling was truly puzzled. Are not all men animals that think with their lower halves? This palace gave you such a good opportunity. It is only natural for you to take your women? You surprisingly do not thank this palace? That Knowledge Star has some desires of you. And this palace is someone who helps others achieve their wishes. Su Xing suddenly rose, his whole body enshrouded in a cold air, walking towards her. Jinji and Yu Ye immediately stepped forward. Chai Ling's delicate hands waved, not at all concerned. The little whirlwind had the red ink iron certificate on her, so no one in this world could hurt her. Seeing Su Xing's face covered in cold frost, she felt this was even more interesting. Su Xing walked right up to her, and his eyes sized her up without any restraint. Those firm and upright breasts were very capable of making people's blood vessels spray open. Her pair of vaguely erotic eyes were really alluring, with absolutely beautiful facial features and a graceful figure, pure white feet, and even that absolutely sensual body brimmed with a flavor filled with allure. Do you really think yourself very rich, that money can be exceedingly high? Su Xing suddenly asked. What would you say? Chai Ling asked in return. Want to make a bet to see how very poor and pedantic you really are? Su Xing showed a cunning smile. Chai Ling only felt that she seemingly had been gazed upon as if she was a sheep. Under that sharp gaze, the clothes covering her body seemingly lost their use. As if not a single thread hung on her body, Chai Ling used her hand to slightly cover the exposed portion of her breasts without leaving a trace, gracefully and haughtily answering. How do you wish to gamble? Su Xing pointed to a set of Chinese chess, smiling. Let's gamble with Chinese chess. Chai Ling had thought Su Xing would want to gamble something, but unexpectedly, it was Chinese chess. Che could not help but make a light disapproving sigh. You wish to use Chinese chess to show this palace is poor and destitute. You really are too creative. Chinese chess is only the method, the outcome is the important point. The noble star discerned the meaning of Su Xing's words. She unenthusiastically smiled. What plan do you have? If I lose, then I will stay to listen to your commands. Su Xing expressionlessly looked at the little whirlwind. Chai Ling shook her head, covering her smile. This palace still wants to see the Knowledge Star lose her virginity. Su Xing's eyes flashed a trace of ice cold. He coldly grinned. If you lose, I want you to follow my request to cram gold onto the chessboard. Cram onto the chessboard? Chai Ling broke into laughter. And how shall it be crammed? Using 100 liang should be sufficient. Su Xing used his hand to point at the chessboard. If little sister Chai Ling loses, place 1 liang of gold upon the first square of this chessboard, 2 liang in the second, 4 liang in the third, 8 in the fourth, and the fifth would have 16 liang. In a similar way, increase as you go one by one through the squares all the way to this last 64th square. Finally, give this gold to your servant. This is the request. Little sister Chai Ling wouldn't refuse, right? After listening to Su Xing's request, Chai Ling had nearly laughed to death. What did filling her trillion liang of gold onto this insignificant 64-square Chinese chessboard count as? She looked at Su Xing with a look that could not help but be full of mockery. This palace is even about to think over being your elder sister, but do not be satisfied with this small of a gain. Is it this simple? You can slowly laugh, but I will see how you cry in a moment. Su Xing thought. The most famous chessboard bet on this earth at first glance seemed very simple, but it seemed it would thoroughly and absolutely make Chai Ling's jaw drop. It is this simple. Su Xing said. But I hear noblewoman Chai is stingy and very fond of hoarding gold. The person herself should be a bit more generous. If you lose, you can also not stuff it, but it must be exchanged for 3 other requests. What requests? Chai Ling actually wanted to know what other thoughts the youth before her had. The first request, lend us the red ink iron certificate. Chai Ling nodded. This is nothing. The second request, whenever you see your servant in the future, sweetly call out Big Brother Su Xing. This request immediately arose in Su Xing purely, due to Chai Ling's arrogant manner. She stayed away from what she did not like, so Su Xing was even more insistent on this. Chai Ling's brow slightly wrinkled. She was not angry but smiled instead. You truly are bold. Do not think that staying behind in this castle will let you have lustful nights every night. This palace has but many ways to treat you. This palace agrees to this calling out of yours. The third request. Seeing as Milady's mouth was hung full of filthy words just now, your servant wants to make Milady give your servant an erotic dance, but thinking about it, it would be better to forget about it. If you are filled with resentment, just sending me your kiss will do. Su Xing sneered. She took Wu Xingjia's virgin body to be like business merchandise in her eyes. So Su Xing could not help having the idea to punish her. Originally, he had something even more nasty, but the other person was the noble star Little Whirlwind, after all. Reflecting over and over again, he could only have a kiss as a gift. What this palace said was not wrong. Men only naturally are creatures that think with their lower halves. Hearing Su Xing's request, Chai Ling actually laughed out loud. She collapsed the golden thread feather fan. And she had a cold look in her eyes and a tone that immediately fell to the freezing point. Then this palace shall let you see your servant's financial might. Don't be so hasty, first play a round of Chinese chess. Su Xing smiled. So as to avoid you blaming Big Brother for not caring for you. A cold wind suddenly rushed in, and then it broke apart in front of Su Xing. Hair was raised, and there were several fractures. Hearing Su Xing say as such, Jinji and Yuya then made a move. Su Xing was calm as a flower, electricity jumping between his fingers. Jinji, what are you two doing? Just let this man speak as he pleases. Fancy that this palace believed in treating you favorably for signing the knowledge star and skillful star. It seems you are nothing more than a frivolous lecher. This palace suddenly actually wants a court eunuch to serve her. Chai Ling smiled yet did not. A natural and sumptuous attitude. You will not refuse, will you? Then little sister must remember to send me a kiss. At first, they seemed to be sweethearts flirtatiously bantering, but on closer inspection, each of the two had a cold glint in their eyes, opposing each other with equal sharpness, each brimming with the concentrated scent of gunpowder. Chai Ling had actually been bored in this great circle castle for a very long time, and suddenly encountering this interesting matter, she was actually full of interest. A table to play chess on was set up. The Chinese chessboard was carved from black scented white pear wood, which was very expensive. Each piece was built completely from precious jade valued at several hundred million. The red side was white lotus jade, and the black side was black ink essence, which were priceless. The 90 intersections over the entire chessboard were all inlaid with considerably pricey green jade. This Chai Ling was rich and overbearing as expected, with anything from the Great Circle Castle being above 100 million. Su Xing chose black. Liangshan's Chinese chess and the Chinese chess he had previously seen were no different. His old grandfather was an incredible Chinese chess player, having previously defeated several national players with one move. Su Xing frequently played with him at home, and to speak of it, this Chinese chess was a specialty of Su Xing's. Chai Ling was also considered proficient in Chinese chess. She was set up on high, so the queen who paid no attention worldly affairs found herself some fun to pass the time. Chai Ling grasped the lotus jade white piece to take the first turn. Seeing Su Xing so haughty, seeking victory so impatiently, she wished she could take Su Xing's general, 3 in one fell swoop. He gathered his spirits, straightened his soldiers and spurred his horses, rushing his chariots like the wind, throwing himself directly at the opponent's positions. The moment an expert moved, that was when it was known whether or not he had the knowledge. Seeing the very first steps of Chai Ling, Su Xing's heart was even more certain he would beat her. In modern Chinese chess, techniques had already been perfected, so why would he fear he could not defeat her? Su Xing planned in advance, taking matters calmly, tightening his defenses and slowing his attack, firmly controlling the center zone. Not long after, both sides were engaged in fierce close-quarters combat, entering the mid-game phase. Su Xing contemplated for a short while, resolutely sending his chariot into the opponent's tiger den. Afterwards he jumped the horse for the general, sinking his soldiers to the bottom line. His chariot firmly grasped the throat, an attack like a cannon barrage firing in succession. And in a short instant he had checkmated her. Chai Ling was stunned, actually holding somewhat of a new level of respect for Su Xing. To be so calm under Chinese chess for his age, even veterans would not make her astonished. Although she lost, the little whirlwind was not dismayed. She called out, "Jinji, take 1 million liang of gold to fill this Chinese chessboard. The remainder might as well be gifted to this young lord too." The noble star little whirlwind wore a slight sneer, as if she was saying, cramming this Chinese chess with gold was truly childish. 1 million liang? You have to count clearly. Su Xing chuckled. Could it be you are dissatisfied with this little? Just now, I said to place 1 liang of gold on this chessboard's first square, 2 liang in the second square, 4 liang in the third square, 8 liang in the fourth square. The fifth square would be 16 liang, and so on all the way to the last 64th square. Is that not correct? Su Xing smiled. When Chai Ling heard him, she had thought Su Xing would say something, but it was just using this method to fill it. Her mouth smiled yet did not, and her eyes brimmed with ridicule. Indeed so. This palace had even thought you would make her shocked, but it was only so. Her grand trillion liang of gold. Was it possible it was unable to fill the board? It was only an insignificant 64 squares. Jinji Ye just follow according to what this young Lord Su Xing said. Jinji and Ye voiced their assent. They crowded the chessboard, putting their heads together as they counted. Counting on and on, the continuously cold and statuesque expressions of the two girls suddenly exhibited great changes. They were stupefied, unable to utter even a word. This was the first time Chai Ling had seen the two maids forget themselves like this. She could not help but furrow her brow in annoyance, asking, "What? However large the amount, just give it to him. There is no need to be frightened into that manner." Jinji stammered. "Milady, milady," counting in accordance to this method of his, upon reaching the 64th square, giving all of milady's gold to him would be nothing more than a small sum. "What?" Chai Ling loudly shouted, severely saying. "You two must have got it wrong. Milady, slave servant does not dare." Jinji and Yuya looked at Su Xing, the expressions full of astonishment. Chai Ling wrinkled her brow, turning her head around to stare at Su Xing. She saw he still acted as if nothing had happened. "What? Did you suddenly feel your so-called vast wealth equal to that of a nation is pitifully lacking?" Su Xing thoughtfully smiled. Even an insignificant chessboard could not be filled. How could it be that this palace's trillion in wealth is insufficient for you? Chai Ling scoffed. She had Jinji and Yuya withdraw and counted the gold herself. A while later, the graceful little whirlwind immediately lost her color, and that golden thread feather fan fell to the ground. How could it be this much? Her mouth hung agape in surprise. Su Xing was not a single bit shocked at her astonishment. The words he gave Chai Ling were from Earth mathematics extremely famous, Sessa's wheat and chessboard problem. 5. She perhaps was pretty good in business, but this seemingly simple chessboard's gold actually very easily confused people, because the chessboard was only 64 squares at first glance. Accumulating from the 1 liang on the first square was not much. The several tens of 10,000s would be sufficient, but the terror of this type of successive accumulation lay at the end. The more towards the end, that absolutely was an astronomical figure. If she really wanted to fill this 64-square chessboard, that was an astronomical figure reaching 20 places. This little bit of capital of Chai Ling's was not enough to fill the gaps between teeth. Milady, Jinji and Yuya were somewhat anxious. Darling little sister Chai Ling, why don't you call out big brother? Su Xing chuckled. The little whirlwind Chai Ling looked at Su Xing filled with fear. Unbelievably, this seemingly superficial youth would think of this frightening of a calculation method. Chai Ling had no choice but to concede. All of her wealth was incapable of satisfying the condition. That a tiny chessboard could be this mysterious made Chai Ling feel disbelief. Amazing, worthy of the one who could sign the skillful star. This palace has underestimated you. Chai Ling said. Isn't it too late to say such nice words? I previously said if you are unable to do it, don't forget those 3 requests. Su Xing ruthlessly used forceful words. Call out big brother right now. Do not be too impudent. Jinji and Yuya said in cold voices when they heard this. To make their lady, the Grand Queen of the Great Circle, go calling a man that looked smaller than her big brother, was simply supreme humiliation. Cease you two. Chai Ling stared at Su Xing, biting her lips hard enough to draw a trace of blood. If it was before this, Su Xing perhaps would have had a change of heart, but now he remained unmoved. Who let her regard Wu Xingjia's chastity as a bill? Big brother. Chai Ling squeezed these 2 words out with extreme difficulty, wishing she could eat Su Xing alive. Seeing the setup on high and arrogant Her Majesty the Queen say big brother, Su Xing truly felt incomparable satisfaction. Little sister Chai Ling must leave light refreshments. You can be considered incredible. Chai Ling's silvery teeth bit tightly. Right, there seemed to be something else. Chai Ling immediately lost her color. Chai Ling's eyes opened wide as she stared, very shocked at Su Xing compared to that exceedingly sensual, smiling yet not carefree appearance. The current noble star little whirlwind truly was like fish meat that had reached the end of the chopping board, giving Su Xing free rein to slaughter her. It was a seemingly pitiful appearance. That flowery fragrance on the woman's body assailed the nostrils. A serene and beautiful attractiveness. Chai Ling brimmed with indignation. Yet she did not know what she should do. Su Xing gazed at her, and seeing the resentment in her eyes, he could not help but stop smiling. After all, he did not like looking at this kiss as if it were a rape, as he quickly lost his mood. The woman's delicate fragrance and Su Xing's male scent lingered and mingled. And for a while, neither of the two said anything. Just at this moment, a charming sentence broke this type of awkward atmosphere, even bringing relief to this mood between the two. He saw Wu Xinjie walking giggling with Yan Yizhen following closely behind. Seeing this ambiguous position that Su Xing and little whirlwind Chai Jin were in, the knowledge star's eyelids jumped. Smiling, she said, "Young lord, stop teasing little sister Chai Ling already." Su Xing heard the meaning behind Wu Xinjie's words. He then bluntly pinched Chai Ling's pretty cheeks, saying, "Since you are my little sister Chai Ling, how could I kiss you?" Saying that, he then left from her body. Little whirlwind Chai Ling inwardly let out a breath of air, looking at Su Xing with a gaze full of fear. "Little sister Chai Ling, now that you alone have seen my young master, do you know why Xinjie and little Yi would serve young master?" Wu Xinjie said. Chai Ling straightened out the disorderly appearance of the front of her shirt. "Milady." Yuya passed the golden thread feather fan. Chai Ling took the fan. Unfolding it, she covered her red lips, the movement not as graceful as before. Clearly, she was still somewhat nervous. This palace truly admires to the extreme. Elder sister's young master indeed is an exceptional character. The noble star turned the knowledge star into her elder sister, her words carrying a trace of respect that evolved from her heart. Since little sister Chai Ling has had a test, it would be better to take the chance to discuss this matter of the red ink iron certificate. Elder sister's man is amazing. This palace shall lend it. Chai Ling's eyes rolled, and flinging her hand, a piece of jade appeared, approximately 2 chi long and 2 inches wide. The main focus of the jade piece was green-colored glass, sparkling bright. It had a drifting shimmer, and around this jade piece were stars as far as the eye could see, lighting up the room with its sparkling. Elder sister certainly has taken advantage of little sister's person. Looking at the red ink iron certificate, Wu Xinjie did not receive it at all. Chai Ling raised her brows, her tone thoughtful. Why does elder sister not receive it? About that bet just now, young lord was only joking around with little sister. How could this red ink iron certificate be bet? The knowledge star said. The little whirlwind declined to comment. She looked towards Wu Xinjie with a gaze full of peculiarity. We had better still make a deal. Wu Xinjie said. This palace likes business deals. Chai Ling showed a bit of cheer. What agreement does little sister want to be willing to lend the red ink iron certificate to us? Wu Xinjie shook her head. Chai Ling glanced at Su Xing. Do not speak any more of what was said previously. Xinjie cannot do that. Wu Xinjie interrupted her words. Chai Ling smiled. Elder sister is actually afraid this palace will snatch your man. Your man is so fierce, this palace unfortunately cannot enjoy him. Since elder sister knowledge star said so, it may be assumed a solution has already been planned out. Do not hesitate to discuss with this palace. Good. Wu Xinjie was firm. If you lend the red ink iron certificate to us, how about if my young lord helps you obtain that star beast? Chai Ling's leisurely expression concentrated, sinking into deep thought. Wu Xinjie was full of self-confidence, unafraid that Chai Ling's heart would not move. Star beasts were the guardian beasts of star generals. They were something every star general was required to have. Only by possessing it could they be considered genuine star generals. In the case a star beast and star general assembled together, they could practically laugh their way through a majority of Liangshan. Although the noble star Little Whirlwind Chai Ling broke away from the star duels because of the red ink iron certificate, no matter how her status was put, she was still a star general. Thus she also could obtain a star beast. It was just that obtaining this star beast required the third phase evil smiting hall, as well as the evil smiting writ. If the noble star wanted to obtain hers, she would have to participate in the star duels. In previous history, not a single noble star had ever obtained their star beast. However, it was not impossible for a knowledge star to obtain her star beast without participating in the star duels. She just had to go about it herself, and was fine as long as she did not use the red ink iron certificate. It sounded simple, but the problem was that only star generals and star masters could enter this evil smiting hall. The noble star had no one to rely on, and not using the red ink iron certificate inside was unfair, so in the past always, even if the little whirlwind noblewoman wealth had wealth equal to a nation's and contempt of authority and law, she never had a star beast. As far as a star general was concerned, this was a lifelong regret. How can this palace be convinced you will not harm this palace? Chai Ling said coldly. Young lord wishes to change the situation of war for us sisters, not at all hoping for a fight to the death. As long as you do not become enemies with us, we naturally will not harm you. On this point, Xinjie can make a pledge to you. Wu Xinjie made a solemn vow. Yan Yizhen also can guarantee it. Yan Yizhen also said. Su Xing nodded too. Chai Ling's eyeballs turned. She indeed was beginning to stir for this star beast. This was a dream the 8th generation noble star never fulfilled. If she said she was not interested, she would be lying. Jinji Yuya, go bring that thing over. Chai Ling said. Milady, could it be that you actually want to participate? Jinji and Yuya anxiously shouted. This palace has her own plans. Chai Ling said coldly. The two maids did not say anything more. A short while afterwards, the two maids brought over a box. The inside of the box was embroidered with cloth, wrapping a black bottle gourd containing some bizarre object. "Milady, you must think this over." Worry was spread all over Jinji and Yuye's faces. It seemed this medicine was very frightening. Chai Ling covered her mouth, smiling yet not. "This item is known as Together to Hell." Together to Hell? Wuxia lost her voice, and Yan Yizhen showed astonishment when she heard this. Together to Hell? The name apparently sounded not particularly lucky. Su Xing furrowed his brow and asked, "What does this thing do?" "This is but a legend-rank spirit item," Wu Xinjie said in disbelief as she looked at Chai Ling. "You surprisingly were able to obtain even this item?" As Su Xing thought, Together to Hell was an immemorial spirit item. Legend had it that it grew at the entrance to the 9 hells. Enriched by the nether rivers. 2. A bridge of helplessness. 3. Changed from the essence chi of sweethearts dying together. If a man and woman each ate this, then their feelings could be mutually sensitive to one another. Of course, its most unusual aspect was that if one of the two died, the other would also die at the same time, truly going to hell together. Thus, this Together to Hell was also called by people death at the same year, same month, same day, same time. When Su Xing heard this, he clicked his tongue. It really was quite abnormal. The 6th generation noble star obtained this. Originally, she planned to obtain her star beast with the help of this, but she never could find a suitable partner. As a result, it was passed down until it came into this palace's hands. And it just so happens this palace shall use it. "You aren't thinking of ingesting it with me, right?" Su Xing said, startled. Chai Ling smiled thoughtfully, her attitude arrogant. "This is the only way that this palace can believe you." "Out of the question. This is too dangerous." Yan Yizhen objected. Wu Xinjie also hesitated. She actually did not expect that Chai Ling would unexpectedly bring out such a spirit item. Dangerous? Could it be the dangerous thing is not this palace? Chai Ling said, amused. That your young master has signed on to the star duels is to die 9 times and still be alive. If this man dies, this palace certainly wants to die alongside him. And this palace has the red ink iron certificate for self-protection. There is no one in this world who can kill this palace, so the one who gets the worst of it indeed is this palace. These words of the little whirlwind left Yan Yizhen speechless. They sounded very true. Then if you commit suicide, won't I die along with you? Su Xing wrinkled his brow. You jest. This palace is willing to sacrifice herself for you in the name of love. What grand dreams are you having? Chai Ling snorted disdainfully. If you want this palace to believe you, then we shall both eat this together to hell. Otherwise, invitation rescinded. Oh right, do not misunderstand, elder sisters. Chai Ling looked towards Su Xing, ridiculing. This palace indeed has no interest in handing her life over to this type of man. Until after the evil smiting hall passes. This palace naturally can find methods to relieve herself of this. That she would not dare entrust her life to a person fighting for the star duels. The group firmly believed this point was true. If we're eating, then let's eat. Su Xing thought a bit, and actually did not think there was anything to be worried about. Just as Chai Ling said, the one who should be even more worried was she herself. After all, she had an immortal body, a difference of heaven and earth from when Su Xing received deadly pursuits. Wu Xinjie and Yan Yizhen looked at their young master, and the other star general about to bind together in life and death. Their hearts truly felt extremely complex, and the knowledge star sighed from the bottom of her heart. Making a married couple sort of 1,000-year contract with that Princess Lingyan was fine, but for this next star general that had not signed a contract to be in life or death together with their master, they were gloomy just thinking about it. But that red ink iron certificate was of vital importance, and not obtaining it was not doable. Thinking about the benefits, signing this sort of unconventional contract could be considered as having the noble star's helping hand. Together to hell hung suspended in the air. Chai Ling gazed at Su Xing, the corners of her mouth curving coldly. Since this palace lost a kiss to you, this kiss shall be returned to you. This palace shall pretend she was bitten by a dog. And what does this have to do with a kiss? Su Xing did not understand. As it turned out, This together to hell required the man and woman each to bite one end of the gourd. Afterwards, they had to imbue it with their divine intents until the black gourd turned a pure white, and then swallow. Finally, they each must lock lips in a kiss and breathe in divine intent. Only then could they achieve a genuine joint trip to hell. Su Xing blushed with shame when he finished listening. This thing was indeed abnormal. Biting onto the together to hell with Chai Ling, he saw Chai Ling's eyebrows rise, maintaining an arrogant bearing. A moment later, the black gourd became white, and Su Xing clearly saw the eyes of the woman in front of him had some panic. Su Xing secretly laughed to himself, and after snapping the gourd, they then kissed. This was still the first time Chai Ling had been embraced like this by a man, especially with those noble red lips of hers being shamelessly sucked by her counterpart. This deep kiss of Su Xing's was considered to be practiced, and a light suck was enough to render her body limp. The Jinji and Yuya to the side watched with endless indignation. How could their proud lady be dominated by a man like this? Chai Ling, do not forget to breathe in the divine intent. Wu Xinjie gloomily reminded. The noble star's eyes immediately restored their sobriety. Hooking her tongue, a perfume-like fragrance entered Su Xing's body. Shua. Su Xing suddenly retreated. He avoided the wind stirred by Chai Ling's palm in time. Noblewoman Chai coldly smiled. Do not take a mile when this palace give an inch. It was a habit. Su Xing patted his left hand, embarrassed. Wu Xinjie blushed red from looking. How could she not know why Chai Ling was resentful? It definitely was her young master's fault. Whenever they kissed, his hand was never too well behaved. The morning light drifted, and the curtains were pulled open. Chai Ling's full-body luxurious palace dress was hung by window. She gazed at the distant figure, her eyes seemingly cold yet not, her mouth seemingly smiling yet not. Milady, why would you ingest this together to hell with that shameless man? Jinji and Yuya were extremely confused. Does this palace need to explain anything she does to you too? Chai Ling's tone was cold. Jinji and Yuya promptly lowered their head, acknowledging their mistake. Chai Ling's tone softened and she said, It seems this man is out of the ordinary. To have the knowledge star and the skillful star, how could it be that easy to die? This time, this palace must obtain her own star beast. Slave servant understands. Chai Ling opened her fan to conceal her red lips. Her jade fingers gently stroked them, for that detestable breath still lingered upon her lips. In the end, she heavily harumphed. Suddenly, Chai Ling raised her head, looking at that far-off heaven-raising pillar, Maiden Mountain, swell with purple light. This purple light spread widely across the lands of Liangshan, its rays dazzling. Jinji and Yuya showed astonishment. The noble star Little Whirlwind Chai Ling narrowed her eyes. This purple star-grade birth outline had finally appeared. Su Xing flew east on his riding sword. Although he spent only one night this time at Songzhou's Great Circle Castle with the Little Whirlwind, it was hard to imagine the events that had transpired in this single night. He unexpectedly signed this type of abnormal contract of the together to hell with Liangshan's richest person, Little Whirlwind Chai Jin. Counting Zhao Hanyan's 1,000-year contract, he currently unexpectedly bore 3 types of distinct contracts on his person, and it was that type of mutual life and death. It made Wu Xinjie feel greatly surprised. Young Lord God whatever. Do not telling Mei and the others about making this together to hell with Chai Ling, so as to avoid worry. Su Xing said. Knowledge star. Why did you not accept just then when the noble star lent young master the red ink iron certificate? Yin Yizhen asked. If not, there was not need to agree to help the Little Whirlwind to capture her star beast. Wu Xinjie had no way out. There was no other way. The red ink iron certificate is Chai Jin's destined star weapon. She can recall it back to within her body at any time. Chai Ling would not accept young lord using that method, and she is not a person willing to suffer losses. If she were to suddenly recall the red ink iron certificate at the pivotal moment, the consequences would be too horrible to contemplate. After hearing Wu Xinjie's analysis, Su Xing and Yin Yizhen broke out in a cold sweat of alarm. If it was not for Wu Xinjie switching to a different type of style, when they used the red ink iron certificate to save their lives, it would lose its function. Indeed, there would be no place to cry out grievances. Not only have we been lent the red ink iron certificate, we were also lent 100 billion. 2. This little whirlwind Chai Jin actually is rich. Su Xing said. The 100 billion acted as something that had to be used when helping Chai Ling accept or reject the evil smiting hall. Evil smiting hall's dangers were severe, and how could the ranked 10th noble star beast be so easy to obtain? It would be inexcusable anyway it was put to not provide operational funds. Chai Ling had glimpsed this star beast for a very long time, so she might as well fully use Help the Needy for Justice all at once. If it was not for Help the Needy's maximum amount being 100 billion, he would have tried to get just a bit more, based on her trillion of wealth. Just at this time, there was suddenly a purple light in the sky. Su Xing, Wu Xinjie and Yan Yizhen raised their heads, immediately seeing that faraway Maiden Mountain erupt in purple light. The heavens seemingly became a deep valley of purple. Rays of light soared out, spraying everywhere. Even if that sky-splitting, earth-opening imposing air was more than tens of thousands of li away, they could sense it. The purple star birth outline, it has appeared. Flaming Eastern Island, the skies above. Su Xing returned to the Four Styles School, surveying the countless cultivators all in the skies on their riding swords. Their gazes were directed towards the heaven-raising pillar. That immense purple was showing off to the entire Liangshan, just like a dragon emerging from the sea. Everyone stared in rapture. Not only was flaming Eastern Island, even farther places also had cultivators. You act as a tool refinement master yet you wander everywhere. How did Martial Ant ever take in a disciple like you? The one who let out such a displeased voice was Ruan Hongxue. Su Xing glared at her, and this Tsundra girl promptly shrunk back her neck in fear. All men are mortal, and it was best to use evil to control evil when handling this sort of evil person. Su Xing did not have interest in lowering himself to the level of a little girl. Spotting Yang Yanyu, he asked, "Senior sister, why is everyone gathering here?" The purple star-grade birth outline has appeared. Yang Yanyu said in amazement. Of course Su Xing knew this. If it appeared, then it's appeared. It's not like we can get it. This is a matter seen once in 100 years. Even if we cannot get it, it is enough to see it. Yang Yanyu giggled. Su Xing shook his head. Noticing Tang Lianxin was not present, he recalled that the fire beacon chariot had yet to be returned to her. The bamboo forest. Su Xing saw that Tang Lianxin just happened to be gazing at the purple clouds in the sky somewhat entranced. Apologies. I forgot to return this to you. Su Xing took out the fire beacon chariot. Want to go take a look together? Tang Lianxin shook her head, dully replying. What is there to see about this? Right, tell master. Tell her that I am entering seclusion to cultivate the heavenly will water flame. Su Xing remembered something and asked a favor. Secluded cultivation? Tang Lianxin stared blankly. And what's wrong? Su Xing looked at her, staring at her. I have something to give you. Tang Lianxin gestured with her hand, and a scroll then flew before Su Xing. It was Su Xing's turn to be surprised, for this scroll was the astral tool, weapon removal scroll. Perhaps it will be of use. Tang Lianxin turned her head away, then proceeded to mind her own things. Thanks. There was a warm feeling inside Su Xing's heart. How could he not know her intentions? Just as Su Xing was about to leave, Tang Lianxin wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, she shook her head, gazed at the sky, and muttered to herself. The purple star-grade birth outline. 3. Returning to the Void Immortals' abode, Lining Mei and Suwen and Shi Yuan had been waiting for a long time. Su Xing, did you manage to borrow the red ink iron certificate from that stingy woman? Shi Yuan nervously asked. I borrowed it. Su Xing took out the red ink iron certificate. This is that legendary powerful star weapon that can make one immortal and indestructible. And Suwen gasped in surprise. Yingmei, how is your 2-star destined weapon? Wu Xinjie asked. Lin Yingmei grunted. Raising her hand, the Arctic Star Serpent Spear appeared in her hand. 2 white bright stars decorated the spear's surroundings, shimmering as they released light. The Arctic Star was dazzling, and the entire sphere showed an even more completely pure white ice-cold feeling. A Heavenly Star General's 2-star weapon, it's unequaled. Shi Yuan happily said. In the second phase birth outline's final stages, although 2 stars could not be said to be that exceptional, that power was absolutely top quality. Don't say that. I fear that there are already 3 and 4 stars. Wu Xinjie smiled. Sister Xinjie, don't scare me. How could those be here so quickly? Shi Yuan blankly said. Wu Xinjie's words certainly were not a joke. In every generation of star duels, along with a star weapon's most important levels, the speed of each star weapon upgrade would be even faster because these procedures would all be very practiced. For 3 stars to appear now was not at all strange. However, a Heavenly Star's 3-star was also a checkpoint. Thus, this 3-star also was not that easy to ascend to. To upgrade to 3 stars at this time perhaps was a powerful foe. Sister Ingmei's 3-star needs what? It would be good to upgrade to 3-star right now. This way, we would have an even better guarantee of plundering purple star grade. Shi Yuan giggled. Lin Yingmei felt the spear. Star generals had a reaction towards their own destined star weapons. So each phase, they could easily find out the materials needed for the next upgrade. This time, Lin Yingmei's brows tightly wrinkled. 12 pieces of ice kite Arctic jade and 80 liang of silver snow sand. Ah, the beauties were startled when they heard these materials. Ice kite Arctic jade? I actually do have a piece of ice kite Arctic stone. Su Xing furrowed his brow. The 3-star of Lin Yingmei's star weapon was really too excessive. Generally, the pure items extracted from the original stones were named jade, and this ice kite Arctic jade happened to be pure jade extracted from ice kite Arctic stone. Ordinarily, precious stone craftsmen did the extraction, but precious stone craftsmen were more sparse than tool refinement masters. Its value would become 5 or 6 times greater, so if ice kite Arctic stone was 100 million, then ice kite Arctic jade's value was 5 or 600 million. 12 pieces of ice kite Arctic jade needed 7 billion. And that silver snow sand was even more excessive, for it was an Arctic-type supreme-grade sand. Converting to gold, it was approximately 100 million, so 80 liang was 8 billion. In terms of gold, Lin Yingmei's 3-star upgrade required 15 billion. That support money of Chai Ling's was simply insufficient to fill the gaps between teeth. So excessive. How do you normally advance the grade? Su Xing was speechless. Generally, we go to areas where materials should be and gather from there. For example, in extremely cold places, or the White Tiger territory, the Black Turtle territory. Lin Yingmei said. So the Heavenly Star's star weapon grade advancement to was with great difficulty. If there were no opportunities, the majority reached their peak at 3 or 4 star. However, the higher a star weapon's grade, gathering would also be simpler. After all, at that time, destined weapons would be awesome with no need to fear most dangers. Of course, star weapons grade advancement would double in materials compared to the previous stage. For example, the first star was 20 liang of relic blade sand, 2-star was 40 liang, 3-star was 80 liang. Su Xing counted for a bit, and he could not help but break into a cold sweat over his whole body. If things were like this, refining to 9-star required sand material of 5,120 liang. God, Su Xing was wrong. He feared that even if Chai Ling lost her entire fortune, she would not necessarily be able to bear the burden of such terrifying expenses. After all, the further towards the end, the more rare the materials. Compared to the difficulties of upgrading the star weapons of heavenly stars, Earthly Star in contrast had things somewhat easier. From the very beginning, they needed less than a heavenly star, and the materials were not as strict. However, star weapon advancement was relatively very weak in the early stage, and a normal 2-star could only withstand a heavenly star's 1-star. It would be better to take this sort of matter of upgrading star weapons slowly. It cannot be rushed. Wu Xinjie said. The purple star grade birth outline has begun. Are we going? No need to feel anxious. The purple star grade birth outline will still need to linger for a few days. Let us finish a few things first. Wu Xinjie said. All right. Bian City's Imperial City, the Imperial Study. Emperor Liang stood on the balcony looking at the distant purple stone pillar. The sky was enshrouded in a gorgeous purple light. This purple light actually makes us recall the purple thunder monster. Emperor Liang faintly smiled. Behind him were several generals and cultivators. They each looked at one another in dismay. The purple thunder monster has certainly been found. Emperor Liang asked. Reporting to your majesty. It is unknown where the purple star monster has concealed himself, for his traces have disappeared. I fear he has disguised himself for the plundering of the birth outline. A general stepped forward to make a report. He must be found. Should he fully grasp that ghost blade, that is yet another more disastrous monster for Liangshan. Emperor Liang unenthusiastically said, By your will. Your Highness, most recently, the purple star-grade birth outline has appeared. Will your majesty dispatch men and horses for interception? We have no need to participate in these muddy waters. Things that are more attractive to people are more dangerous. Emperor Liang gazed at the purple flying over, his expression indescribably peaceful. White Deer Highlands. When Su Xing arrived at the location this purple star birth outline would appear at, the entire was already filled with people. As far as the eye could see, every sort of dazzling robe each shone. The 10 great sects were half of the number while the majority of the rest were sects of all names that had come. Su Xing already spotted more than a dozen supercluster stage cultivators alone. The elder, ancestor longevity, of the lifeless hall and the Xianzhenzi, two of the true immortal hall of the two halls were especially conspicuous. Of the two, one had a ghostly gloom, a dark presence, with a cultivation of galaxy late stage. The other faintly released dust, unsullied with the mundane, and was also galaxy late stage. In robbing and killing the purple birth outline, these two late-stage great cultivators certainly could even be said to be powerful existences. The purple star-grade birth outline was far from comparison to the earthly fiend and heavenly spirit. Its demon beast escorts all were 8th rank and above. At this rank, the so-called ants could bite an elephant to death was a ridiculous matter. If there was not a favorable matchup or tacit understanding among them, even more scattered star cultivators would be cannon fodder. Thus, when the purple star grade appeared, besides the large sects and schools, the majority of scattered star cultivator schools all assumed an evasive state. It was not simple for Su Xing to masquerade his identity, for in Suwen's change appearance pill and Shi Yuan's sect plate were randomly arranged by him. Sneaking in among the others by pretending to be the disciple of a sect, Su Xing discreetly observed star masters. Yan Wudao was foregone, but as for her chilly figure, the long-departed Princess Ling Yan, Zhao Hanyan had also appeared. Seeing her elegant and slim noble grace, it really was hard to imagine the secret relationship she had with the steadfast star Dong Junqing. Zhao Hanyan suddenly lowered her head, her gaze sweeping across the surroundings below. Princess, is there something wrong? Xianzhenzi faintly smiled. Yen'er is oversensitive. Zhao Hanyan said. In that instant just now, the intertwined branch sword of the 1,000-year contract briefly pulsed, seemingly sensing that the other divine sword was in the vicinity. Could it be that he had also come? Zhao Hanyan immediately recognized that this was not strange. He could not possibly not come for the purple star birth outline. Taoist Master Xian, it appears that the true immortal hall is amply imposing. With the lifeless hall on this side, Ancestor Longevity brought every disciple to welcome him. From the pure black robes distributed among the lifeless hall, as if glancing at a deep pool, it made those people exude a chill. The sect's disciples each had excellent cultivation, and a pitch-black flying sword upon them. How could it compare to the lifeless hall's imposing air? With unexpectedly more than 50 galaxy cultivators approaching, this certainly is a great style. Xianzhenzi laughed aloud. Though the purple star outline was good, its demon beast escorts were extremely powerful. The majority of the sects all braced for the unpredictable. Only dispatching several great elders was enough, so as to avoid making a few disciples into useless cannon fodder. This palace naturally will do his utmost. Princess Lingyan, this palace has heard you obtain the purple star token. Truly, the young show promise. Ancestor Longevity smiled gloomily. The younger generations are but only lucky. Zhao Hanyan warmly said. The Dong Junqing beside her coldly stared at this ancestor longevity, coming across as a bit rude. The 1,000 cultivators suddenly made several noises. A cyan magical cloud appeared from out of nowhere, its magic breath lingering. In an instant, it attracted the stares of all the star cultivators present. Upon the cyan magical cloud was a cyan-robed, extremely aged old man with a long beard. His glistening expression had spirit, and the White Deer Highlands immediately was enveloped under a serene light. In the old man's surroundings were 100 galaxy stage and higher disciples. Relentlessness was in their eyes, full of an imposing air, seemingly like divine troops, completely awe-inspiring. This clear void most high paths, extreme clarity elder immortal. 3. Is indeed fond of playing this sort of spectacle. Ancestor longevity sorrowfully smiled. Yet Xian Junzi was indifferent. Xie Yuan was defeated by some monster. Yet is that all? It would be best to not be careless. The newcomers were Liangshan's premier great sect, the most high path. Standing beside this extreme clarity elder immortal was a youth. And besides Xie Yuan's complete conspicuousness, he had an elegance, a warm and sleek jade. At first glance he actually seemed to be a proper gentleman. Su Xing and the other cultivators alike were amazed and envious seeing the boundless scene of these great sects go up on stage. Then, riding in on clump of clouds and mist, the extreme ice holy palace also appeared. In the lead was the refined and premier ice, and the long-absent Gong Kaiwei was still tranquil as a chrysanthemum, like the first time they met, her attire snowy and unreasoning. Afterwards, the Divine Flame Sword Sect and the Tai Sword Sect each arrived. Besides the entirety of Crystal Dragon Palace and the Blooming Water Sword Sect of the Azure Dragon territories, 1 clear, 2 halls, 3 palaces for sword sects appearing on scene, the powerful imposing air of these great sects actually made people unable to take deep breaths. This lot of crickets and ants also have the idea of obtaining the birth outline. Indeed, they act recklessly. From the Tai Sword Sect, a youth with a high forehead hatefully said. This time, the Tai Sword Sect's leader, the Galaxy Middle Stage ancestor Huai Mu. 5 faintly smiled. Su Feng, 6 you must not be arrogant. If they do not throw away their lives for the birth outline, could it be that you would prefer our sect to do so? Master lectures rightly. Su Feng nodded. This time properly note these star masters. They will be your foes in the future. Ancestor Huai Mu's expression swept past Zhao Hanyan, Yin Wudao, Gong Kaiwei and the rest. Disciple engraves this to memory. While the White Deer Highlands were all in a clamor, Su Xing also sized up all the intelligence he had, particularly the star masters of the 10 great sects. These people could be said to be the Azure Dragon territory's most famous and most powerful opponents. His mandated glance at Song Kaiwei, Zhao Hanyan and Yin Wudao aside, Xie Yuan actually made Su Xing look at him more closely. Never expected this many people would come. This is too extreme. Shi Yuan was slightly distressed inside his ocean of consciousness. Why would so many people come? It seems this purple star grade birth outline is even more thorny. Wu Xinjie was also deeply worried. There were this many supercluster cultivators, and it looked as if the purple star grade birth outline's escorts were at least 9th-ranked demon beasts. Follow them as they kill, and we can take advantage of them when the time comes. Shi Yuan giggled. This indeed was the optimum strategy, after all, confronting every extraordinary of the 10 great sect, let alone Su Xing being only galaxy early stage, honestly had no advantages whatsoever that could be mentioned. The other sects had a burst of a disturbance, somewhat also unsettled by the 10 great sects deploying this many experts. However, the purple star birth outline was something once in a century after all. Bold people would still stay behind, and this number was considerable. Approximately after another oil lamp. Suddenly, the horizon exhibited a ray of light, and the purple star grade birth outline already appeared. Everyone became excited, striking seals and raising riding swords one after another. Each used their powers, standing by at the ready. The 10 great sects spoke nothing more, all of them moving in their respective directions, unwilling to join hands with the other sections. In a short while, this flower-shaped auspicious cloud of multicolored light flew over. And in the blink of an eye, Several enormous silhouettes could be seen quaking inside the magical cloud. What is that? Ah! This is bad. The crowd abruptly cried out in fear. The expressions of several of the originally still composed galaxy cultivators suddenly showed great changes. And when they saw the purple star grade birth outline, they truly were shocked beyond compare. That magical cloud was enormous, close to 1,000 li in length. They saw only within that auspicious purple magical cloud the 5 different colored lights of gold, cyan, black, crimson and silver roll forward without stopping. Wherever it passed, it practically hid the sky and covered the earth. Hearing that dragon roar shake the plains, penetrating the blue dome of heaven, a surging perilous alarm was raised in the hearts of the cultivators. The countless commoners who witnessed this scene earnestly kowtowed in reverence. Even Su Xing could not help but tremble a bit when he saw those 5 multicolored lights. Those, astonishingly, were 5 ancient 9th-rank dragons. The golden one was the heaven-tearing gold dragon. 7. The silver was the heaven-swallowing silver dragon. 8. The cyan was the heaven-breaking cyan dragon. 9. The black the heaven-devouring black dragon. 10. And the red one was the heaven-burning crimson dragon. 11. They were the Liangshan-shaking 5 great firmaments demon dragons. 12. The 5 firmaments dragons rolled in the cloud layer. And in this cloud was an immense object, obscured by a purple light. From its shape, it seemed to be a huge palace. The 5 dragons' protection palace. 13. Everyone was astonished. No one had expected the ones escorting the purple star grade to surprisingly be the 5 firmament dragons. This purple star birth outline's escort team truly continued for 1,000 li. In nearly the next second, the star cultivators from the large schools looked at each other in dismay, then turned and ran without the slightest hesitation. Who were they kidding? With 5 dragons tugging a palace, any more thoughts of robbing and killing, and they would not even know what would happen if they actually died. In the blink of an eye, the White Deer Highlands that was originally packed with people were left with only the 10 great sects and the schools whose participation was agreed upon. Other than the supercluster cultivators that could maintain their shock, each and every disciple under their banners was pale, their expressions anxious. Unexpectedly, it is the 5 dragons' protection palace. I fear that this birth outline will not be easy to plunder, Wu Xinjie said. Su Xing did not reply. His gaze was dead set on the faraway golden dragon. At this time, 8 great sects each harbored sinister ulterior motives. Haha. This purple star grade is the 5 firmaments dragons. This indeed is not bad. These supercluster elder Taoists were not afraid. On the contrary, they smiled. In the Azure Dragon territory, this sort of demon beast originally was rare, and those like dragons were even more legendary. Thus, could an insignificant blooming water dragon be sold for a sky-high price? How could these great cultivators have any sense to be courteous upon seeing those 5 dragons? As far as they were concerned, 9th rank was galaxy stage, with the addition of staking their life. They actually drove away those crickets and ants overestimating their own abilities. Saves us the trouble of doing it ourselves. Ancestor Longevity sneered. It is still best to mind these dragons. When these words fell, these great sects then changed into escape lights. Young master, what do we do? Lin Yingmei opened her mouth. Confronting a 9th rank dragon, this absolutely was not a laughing matter. No need to worry. Ha, if we seize this chance, we could just be able to put the first sword chant in hand. Su Xing chuckled. In an instant, the 5 dragons bringing the purple star chest arrived at White Deer Highlands. A close-up look at these ancient dragons was even more terrifying, and the gigantic purple cloud seemingly wanted to step downwards. The 5 dragons' bodies were continuous and unending, their ends not in sight. The dragons shuttled back and forth in the sea of clouds. A sort of legendary tremor made Su Xing unable to breathe. A dragon roar shook the 4 directions of the plain. Although they were 5 dragons, they simply kept very far from each other, with each dragon protecting the 4 directions. Yet there was actually a very big opportunity. Otherwise, the 5 dragons were neatly assembled. Granted that it was more than a dozen supercluster cultivators, they would be uncertain, but seeing the legendary 5 dragons protection palace for the first time, Even the extreme clarity Elder Immortal also had a grim face, not daring to act. For a time the atmosphere was extremely calm. Su Xing had long already used the oneness of heaven and man to conceal himself in a nook to prepare to be the one that ran away with the bone. 14. If he faced these dragons he definitely did not have a chance. However, he did not care about this, first pillaging the purple star birth outline. Su Xing pinched 2 fingers, and a bolt of purple divine thunder slashed forth. Not one of the cultivators that happened to be suppressed firmly by the purple chi of the 5 dragons' protection palace noticed this at all. Boom! The divine thunder struck into the clouds, as if igniting a powder keg. The 5 dragons bellowed, topping mountains and rivers. Kill! The world immediately was desolate. The 5 ninth-rank firmament's dragons became angry, and hence, the world also was fine with becoming angry. A huge purple cloud covered the White Deer Highlands, and the 5 dragons launched an attack on all the cultivators in their surroundings. 9th-rank demon beasts were classified as peak supercluster stage, so the few sects present could only count as a single battle. Immediately, dazzling light circulated, and several thousand flying swords or sword chants became arrays or formed into shapes that moved incessantly between the dragons. Its imposing manner could be seen 1,000 li away. Several dozen large schools and thousands of galaxy stage cultivators gathered together to surround the immense purple cloud, constantly launching attacks. Due to the 5 dragons' protection, they could at first only tear open a gash that could be entered. Su Xing was happily relaxed, feasting his eyes on the battle of the number of supercluster late-stage cultivators from below. What the strongest most high path surrounded was the heaven-breaking Cyan Dragon. The most high path senior monk extreme clarity Elder Immortal was peak supercluster, so he had a fighting chance against this dragon. He snapped his fingers, and 33 streaks of jade light flying swords unceasingly circled around his body, like winding and running water, continuous and unending. The heaven-breaking Cyan Dragon sprayed from its mouth a green light that was blocked by the extreme clarity Elder Immortal's sword array, which was unexpectedly not shook up in the slightest by the 9th-rank demon beast's attack. When the heaven-breaking dragon saw this, it pounced in a tackle. The 100 jade lights at this moment shot forth with a whoosh. The most high path's galaxy late-stage cultivators immediately acted to put every sort of sword chant on display. Hundreds of flying swords tacitly understood one another completely, like an enormous sword that cut down the heaven-breaking Cyan Dragon. Besides the galaxy late-stage cultivators, the other galaxy early-stage disciples took charge of protection magic, so as to avoid bringing about a change. Everything advanced according to plan. Worthy of the Azure Dragon Territory's #1 sect. The extreme clarity Elder Immortal opened his mouth, and 12 jade flames suddenly were spat out. These jade flames spun around the heaven-breaking Cyan Dragon's whole body. Although this dragon was very large, its dragon head would always be its vital point. At this moment, those brilliant flames extinguished. Then 8 ancient mirrors seemingly made of jadeite were produced. These mirrors were about the size of a palm with one side glossy as water, manifesting a bluish light, and the other side was like stirred lake water, giving rise to ripples. That happened to be the extreme clarity Elder Immortal's strongest magic weapon. Jade light-colored glass mirror. Go! All of a sudden, the jade light-colored glass mirror's light rays greatly flourished. With a brief shudder, 12 pillars of jade light thick as a bowl sprayed out from the mirror. Practically the moment these jade light pillars shot out, they nearly did not give anyone time to react. The jade light then suddenly became a large net that trapped this heaven-breaking Cyan Dragon. Extreme clarity Elder Immortal executed an incantation, and a jadeite flame reached the skies. The heaven-breaking Cyan Dragon loudly cried. Su Xing's expression secretly changed. This supercluster late-stage cultivator was an abnormal existence, as expected, and the most high path displayed it so with much awe. The other great sects were not inferior, though. The black sword of the lifeless hall's ancestor longevity became a deep pool, seemingly wrapping the heaven-devouring black dragon within an abyss. His magic weapon was also similarly shocking. It was an enormous black long sword with an indistinct form, and the heaven-devouring black dragon would howl in grief every time the sword swung. The True Immortal Hall, the Extreme Ice Holy Palace, the Divine Flame Sword Sect and the other sects each fought one dragon. Not only was this to break open a gap, they desired to take these dragons for themselves. All the cultivators had no time to be unoccupied, besides one sword sect. Although the Tai sword sect also had the appearance of putting up a fight, they actually were insignificant. Superficially attacking, they clearly knew they could not vie against these large schools. Waiting for when they broke the 5 dragons' protection, then they would look for an opportunity. Su Xing, just now you said the first sword chance material is at hand. What did you mean? Shi Yuan asked. Could it be the heaven-tearing gold dragon? Wu Xinjie was stunned. The heavenly spirit earthly fiend purple star 5 elements sword's metal scroll just so happened to require the heaven-tearing gold dragon's scales for forging. But Big Brother simply cannot forge it right now? And how can you manage with this many people? And Suwen was confused. The Divine Flame Sword Sect was dealing with the heaven-tearing gold dragon. Their heaven-burning sword chant was also incomparably powerful, and although it currently looked to be somewhat dangerous, to snatch this heaven-tearing gold dragon from their hands was not possible. And the current problem, besides these allied sects, the other sects would not permit us to approach. Lin Mei also said. Seeing those protective magic cultivators each have a nervous expression. They were facing a powerful enemy. Naturally there is a way. Su Xing's eyes rolled about, and he chuckled. Hearing Su Xing's words, and Suwen, Wu Xinjie and Shi Yuan then emerged from the star nest to ease Su Xing's battle burdens. The knowledge star applied speed is a crucial asset in war for Su Xing. Su Xing, young Lord Big Brother, be careful. Su Xing nodded and held his breath, using the innate Bagua escape technique. The purple cloud was extremely massive, and though these cultivators took every precaution against danger, they could not possibly guard everyone, thus each stayed in his own range. This gave Su Xing an opportunity to exploit. Lin Mei and Yan Yizhen both did not understand just what way Su Xing was about to use, but they then saw him assume a new appearance, his whole body tattered in a somewhat sorry figure, his robes half destroyed. Then Su Xing flew towards the Tai sword sect. When a Tai sword sect cultivator saw someone flying towards them, he immediately raised the alarm. Your servant is one who serves the Divine Flame Sword Sect founder, specially requesting the senior of the Tai sword sect to ally together to kill that heaven-tearing gold dragon. Su Xing cupped his fist, loudly speaking, presenting a token which was unmistakably the Divine Flame Sword Sect's. The Tai sword sect's people stopped. Ancestor Huaimu chuckled as he looked at Su Xing. Even assuming his sidelining strategy had been found out, he said somewhat awkwardly. Does the Divine Flame Sword Sect not style itself as clinging fire-restricting metal? This heaven-tearing gold dragon even requires us to lend a hand? I am sure Senior understands, but our founder is somewhat unable to oppose it anymore that he would have disciple hastily request Senior for assistance. Su Xing faked an extremely anxious appearance. Lin Mei thought, this young master truly can put on a performance. And however, this dragon needs to be divided evenly. Ancestor Huaimu said, this is naturally so. Su Xing continuously nodded. Disciples go. Ancestor Huaimu also felt that if they continued to stay on the sidelines, when the birth outline ended, they could not easily report back a successful mission. And thus did he have the idea to go kill. Su Xing brought the Tai sword sect, immediately rushing there, dashing at the front. Huaimu thought, this youth is actually eager for his sect. To be this worried, for the Divine Flame Sword Sect to be entirely of disciples like this is honestly eye-opening. But how could he know that Su Xing at this time was putting on a play of utilizing asymmetric information? A classic psychological deception. The Divine Sword Sect's confrontation with the heaven-tearing gold dragon already was somewhat strenuous, and suddenly seeing so many of the Tai Sword Sect's people rush over, they thought the Tai sword sect were trying to loot a burning house. Just at this moment, they heard the youth at the very front say, the Tai sword sect's senior has arrived to assist. Die dragon. Su Xing only yelled this because he had initially wanted the Divine Flame Sword Sect to believe he was someone from the Tai sword sect. However, he had overreached and actually increased their morale. Ancestor Huaimu, you finally have bothered to come. The Divine Sword Sect's Heavenly Fire founder coldly chuckled. He had known a bit about Ancestor Huaimu's sidelining for plundering the birth outline. Ancestor Huaimu chuckled. Has this ancestor not come to help fellow? Humph. When the Tai Sword Sect disciples arrived, they used their sword chants. The Tai sword art was unstoppable, bringing great relief to the Divine Flame Sword Sect's pressure. The biggest hole in Su Xing's plan right now was that there would not be two great sect sword chants. However, this did not pose a problem for him. Su Xing clapped his hands, and the Clinging Fire Star Domain sword appeared in then. The sword raising Clinging Fire. Leisurely raising it, a wave of fire swept out, burning hot and unending. The people of the two great sects watching were dumbstruck. This Clinging Fire Star Domain sword happened to correspond with the Divine Flame Sword Sect, so the Tai Sword Sect had no doubts. They only felt that the Divine Flame Sword Sect was only naturally of a big style, and it was a galaxy early-stage cultivator that unexpectedly had this rank of a weapon. The Divine Flame Sword Sect was even more astonished. That Clinging Fire Star Domain sword's might was witnessed by their eyes. What was somewhat odd was why would the Tai Sword Sect give this astral treasure to a galaxy early-stage cultivator? Could it be that he was a Star Master? This hair's breadth fight did not give either side too much time to reflect. For now, facing this golden dragon was the most important thing, and this gave Su Xing a chance to exploit a classic trap. The heaven-tearing gold dragon roared, and 100 golden light beams sputtered to life. These light beams flashed and promptly extinguished. Su Xing's reactions already were extremely strong, hastily blocking with the Clinging Fire Star Domain sword when only the flash passed by. Bang! A powerful force seemingly tore apart his internal organs, making Su Xing spit out a mouthful of blood. This was a 9th-ranked demon beast, something Su Xing simply could not contend against with his current abilities. Several blood-curdling screams. Su Xing turned his head, and saw more than a dozen cultivators show frightened expressions. These cultivators, already completely guarding against everything, did not yet return to their senses. He immediately saw their defensive artifacts had been penetrated. A large hole appeared in their stomachs, and bodies fell from the sky. You animal! Ancestor Heavenly Fire threw out a magic weapon, a red pearl that ignited a fireball. When the fireball appeared, even Su Xing felt his body was seemingly on fire. This magic weapon was awesome, as expected. Hey! The red pearl smashed against the top of the heaven-tearing gold dragon's head, and a blinding flame burned a terrifying hole of raging fire into it. The heaven-tearing gold dragon angrily roared. Its dragon claw tore, and another dozen star cultivators were ripped apart in the blink of an eye. Su Xing's whole body broke out in a cold sweat of fear. It was a thrilling escape, but the claw's might still shocked him away a few hundred meters. His entire body had been ripped open with many tiny wounds. This moment also made Ancestor Heavenly Fire's defensive magic weapon totter on the edge of collapse. The 9th-ranked demon beast after all was peak supercluster, and Ancestor Heavenly Fire, and the others were no more than middle stage. Despite the difference being only a single realm, the power was the difference between the sky and the earth. Ancestor Heavenly Fire's whole body shook and he roared. Ancestor Huaimu, this ancestor's boundless sun pearl too has been used, yet you still will not bring out your clear sky peak. 3. Don't be hasty. Does this ancestor not happen to want to use it now? Ancestor Huaimu chuckled, and 50, 60 flying swords first protected his front. Then he struck seals with both hands, and they saw a miniature mountain peak appear on his hand. That peak was verdant and glistening, very much like models Su Xing had seen before, like a large mountain shrunk 100 times. Ancestor Huaimu read an incantation, revolving his star energy, and then threw it towards the sky. That peak suddenly expanded in the wind, instantly swelling 100 times in size, just like an actual massive mountain had suddenly appeared. Ancestor Huaimu launched out several streaks of light, and that clear sky peak's jade light fully manifested, an immense shadow covering them. Go! Ancestor Huaimu shouted. The clear sky peak pressed towards the heaven-tearing gold dragon. On Grindstone Mountain he had been graced with the might of Ancestor Bailey's magic weapon. But now, it seemed that it paled in comparison. These two supercluster cultivators' magic weapons were even more extremely valiant. The boundless sun pearl pounded the heaven-tearing gold dragon into hissing, and this clear sky peak weighed down upon the heaven-tearing gold dragon's head, as if to crush it to death. This 9th-ranked dragon was indeed fierce, unexpectedly pinning a large mountain. Ancestor Huaimu lost his relaxed appearance. His cold sweat overflowed, his teeth gritted tightly, and the life-cast flying swords around his body appeared unstable because of his grimness. The gold light of the heaven-tearing gold dragon's entire body thoroughly resisted the clear sky peak. If it was not for the boundless sun pearl that Ancestor Heavenly Fire used continuously launching attacks, suppressing it, perhaps this Ancestor Huaimu basically would have had no way to resist. Sufeng, all of you quickly advance. Ancestor Huaimu shouted aloud. Your Highness Hung, we must rely on you. Ancestor Heavenly Flame simultaneously shouted. When Su Xing looked, 2 youths appeared from the rear. In the crowd of galaxy cultivators, 2 nebula late-stage cultivators seemed to stick out peculiarly, and to be able to make the 10 great sects bring along nebula late stages that appeared right now during this dangerous purple star grade birth outline. Their words even brimmed with an intention to rely on their help. Su Xing nearly did not have to think to know the status of these 2 star masters. Beside the Su Feng of the Tai Sword sect appeared a young girl with white ears and short hair, wearing black clothes as well as white armor. A pair of essence chi sprung from her eyes, and her hand held a white spear embroidered with black. Upon that spear were 2 shimmering stars. However, what was even more noteworthy was the Divine Flame Sword Sect's Star Master. Your Highness Hung? Su Xing immediately recalled that Wu Xinjie once wanted him to be wary of the great Liang's progeny, Zhao Heng. He looked, and naturally he saw a youth with magnificent red garb, an icily arrogant expression, a respectable temperament and clutching an astral tool in his hand. However, even more noteworthy was the girl beside Zhao Heng. A purple simple and elegant palace dress, graceful and gorgeous beauty, a look brimmed with a severe expression. She sneered, and a long axe with a fire dragon coiled around it appeared in her hand. The axe head had a fiery dragon flit past, and 3 red shining stars glittered in the long axe's surroundings. Su Xing was stunned. Not only him, but also every cultivator present revealed astonished expressions. That Su Feng before them was even more overwhelmed. A 3-star destined star weapon. Unbelievable. A Heavenly Star's 3-star destined weapon. Turning a Star General's star weapon to 2-star was a threshold. Each increment of level would be several times more troublesome than the previous, especially for heavenly stars. To have a 3-star in the second phase, this speed could not possibly not shock people. The 100,000 Dragon Flame Axe. The ranked 19th Flight Star, Impatient Vanguard Suachao. 2. Extraordinary, extraordinary. This ancestor did not expect the Divine Flame Sword Sect's Star General to unexpectedly be 3-star. You deserve to be called the Great Liang Dynasty's Second Highness. The number 1 Star Master of the Azure Dragon territory should yield to your majesty. Ancestor Huaimu gloomily sneered. Ancestor Heavenly Fire grunted. If it was not for the urgent state of affairs, he honestly did not want to have the impatient vanguard reveal herself. Heh heh. If this guy knew His Highness Star General was about to advance to 4-star, he wondered what sort of expression would be made. Elder Sister is very incredible, with a star weapon unexpectedly already 3-star. Su Feng's black-robed, white-armored Star General also showed a surprised expression. Her hand hefted a red tasseled spear. The 2 stars on the spear glinted, circulating a dark light, a gorgeous blood-red color. This spear was known as 100 Wars Bloodthirst, and this happened to be the 42nd ranked majestic Star General of 100 Victories Han Tao's destined star weapon. 3. The impatient vanguard Suachao hooked her lips into a smile. Idling will lead to fighting over the chest. As long as little sister Han Tao does not hinder this palace, elder sister will be lenient. The general of 100 Victories Han Yao showed a slightly unsightly expression, and was unwilling.Qingshuang. Zhao Heng ordered her. The flight star Sua Qingshuang nodded. Saying nothing more, she leapt up, her hands raising the 100,000 dragon flame axe. Sneering as she hacked towards the heaven-tearing gold dragon. The 3-star destined weapon's might was astonishing, the axe's edge seemingly ripping apart space, raging flames curling about. It made all the surrounding cultivators have a difficult time drawing near. Qing. 5 Su Feng also said. The majestic star general of 100 victories Han Qing simultaneously lifted the 100 Wars bloodthirst spear and stabbed at the heaven-tearing gold dragon. The heaven-tearing gold dragon hissed a long cry. The star weapon's attack certainly was not that easy to get through, especially a 3-star destined weapon. When this axe head went down, it carved out a severe wound. The dragon blood that sprayed and splashed out was immediately evaporated clean away by the axe head's blaze. Ancestor Huaimu pointed 2 fingers together, stimulating several threads of star energy. The clear sky peak became even more heavy and pushed harder. The heaven-tearing gold dragon's tail violently swept, brushing aside more than a dozen cultivators. An ancestor heavenly fire also was swept away. Availing itself the time where the boundless sun pearl was not attacking, the heaven-tearing gold dragon's entire body radiated a blinding golden light. Shaking the heavens with its dragon roar, it rushed into the sky. Rumble. Ancestor Huaimu spat out a mouthful of blood, his expression greatly changing. Such a large clear sky peak had been unexpectedly shattered into fragments by the heaven-tearing gold dragon. The 9th-ranked demon beast's power was visibly terrifying. Su Xing to the side watched with his heart pounding in fright. If he alone killed the heaven-tearing gold dragon, he did not know what year nor what month forging would be finished. Simply bestowed with such an enormous chance in this purple star grade birth outline, Su Xing absolutely could not miss it. Glancing at the 2-star generals, Su Xing raised the clinging fire star domain sword. The sword became a fire dragon that pounced onto the heaven-tearing gold dragon. However, there were 2 large schools vying against each other, so he definitely had no interest in fighting his hardest. Breaking away from the clear sky peak suppression, the heaven-tearing gold dragon looked as if it had been set free, its body nimbly rolling inside the purple cloud. Its dragon claws repeatedly launched attacks towards the 2-star generals. The impatient vanguard Sua Qingshuang and the general of 100 victories Han Qing were of excellent martial prowess, relying on the 2-star and frightening 3-star destined weapons to stop the heaven-tearing gold dragon's terrifying offensive. The disciples of the 2 large sects successively used their powerful sword chants. The Yi-Wood sword technique 6 and the divine flame sword technique became 2 types of opposite powers that continuously battered the heaven-tearing gold dragon and its dragon scales that were like a pool of gold. Although it brought about a feeble result, the long-term accumulation could produce injuries. The heaven-tearing gold dragon was somewhat angry it had been tangled by everyone. It spat out a golden light, and this golden light became countless golden dragons that bit at everyone. Whatever flying sword or artifact it hit was devoured. One look showed that the heaven-tearing gold dragon had used its special ability. These cultivators hastily retreated, using every sort of defensive artifact. Zhao Heng grasped in his hand an astral treasure. A crimson light protected his body, and Su Feng also raised a gong in front of him. Their star generals also consciously guarded the front of their young masters. This power of the heaven-tearing gold dragon actually could not hurt them. Su Xing was anything but reassured. When the golden light rushed over, that speed actually was shocking, and he just was not able to powers the likes of the blooming water divine thunder lest he expose his identity. He could only completely rely on the clinging fire domain sword to break these golden lights. The 9th-rank heaven-tearing gold dragon was very much incredible, for when several dozen golden lights rushed over, even the clinging fire star domain sword was beginning to gradually weaken. Continuously spraying several of the golden star rivers, the heaven-tearing gold dragon abruptly rose high into the air, its dragon talons again ripping several galaxy late-stage disciples to pieces. Heavenly fire, hold back any more, and we will certainly die here. Ancestor Huaimu shouted when he saw this heaven-tearing gold dragon was so tyrannical, throwing out a magic weapon as he spoke. For this ancestor's protection magic. Ancestor Heavenly Fire was also irate. His hand beckoned, and those several dozen flying swords of his became raging infernos that mutually overlapped and slashed towards the heaven-tearing gold dragon. Afterwards he made a hand seal, and the boundless sun pearl returned to his front. Elder Heavenly Fire's mouth opened, spraying out bursts of bright red true fire. These true flames were odd, for they condensed and did not disperse, revolving without pause in front of Ancestor Heavenly Fire. One flicker mixed with another, and afterwards, they directly dissolved into the boundless sun pearl. The dim light of the boundless sun pearl's body became very red, its temperature high enough to make the air around Ancestor Heavenly Fire distort. The other disciples that knew the ancestral master was using his strongest ability hastily withdrew upon seeing this. The heaven-tearing gold dragon also senses that abnormally high temperature. Its mouth opened, pouncing towards Ancestor Heavenly Fire. Intercept. Ancestor Huaimu read his sword chant, and several dozen flying swords formed a sword wall to block in front of Ancestor Heavenly Fire. The heaven-tearing gold dragon slammed the sword wall to the edge of collapse, and Ancestor Huaimu's expression was increasingly grave. Condensed flame boundless Sunday mountains and rivers entirely burn. 7. After Ancestor Heavenly Fire finished spitting out several dozen flames, the boundless sun pearl was compacted into a tiny sun. Seeing him squeeze out a hand seal, the sword wall immediately scattered, and that boundless sun pearl struck against the heaven-tearing gold dragon's head. This seemingly was as if the 9th-ranked dragon's whole body had been doused in gasoline, suddenly igniting a raging blaze from head to toe, even stirring the purple cloud. Su Xing's heart tightened when he saw this, for he honestly feared that Ancestor Heavenly Fire would burn this heaven-tearing gold dragon to ashes. That was a loss that outweighed the gains. Roar. The sound of a dragon roar made Su Xing calm his heart, and he could not help but admire how valiant this heaven-tearing dragon was. When the fire cloud dispersed, the heaven-tearing gold dragon surprisingly directly swallowed the boundless sun pearl in one gulp. Then it spat out hundreds of streaks of sharp golden light. When Ancestor Heavenly Fire saw this, he immediately operated his sword chant. More than 30 red fire-flying swords promptly clumped together and wrapped him within. Hey! At this moment, the majestic star general of 100 victories Han Tao was like an acrobat, the bloody spear carving out an arc that ripped apart the sky as it slashed the heaven-tearing gold dragon. With a great shock, she used her yellow rank spear technique. One stroke violent death. 8. It will do for this palace to assist you a bit. The flight star Sua Qingshuang coldly chuckled, slashing with her long axe. Unlike Han Qing, she did not use her yellow rank style. As far as heavenly stars were concerned, using yellow rank styles before the pivotal moment was self-harming behavior, but the impatient vanguard used all of her star energy. The axe had cut into the heaven-tearing gold dragon's body, like a nail was hammered into it. That maneuver of Ancestor Heavenly Fire already made the heaven-tearing dragon rather battered, and that layer of heavenly fire had seemingly burned off its drive. In the battle afterwards, 2 star generals shifted and moved, their star weapons repeated attacks eliciting howls of grief from the heaven-tearing gold dragon. The nearby Su Xing gradually halted his attacks, and dodged away with the other disciples to make a defensive formation. Watching the 2 star generals and 2 ancestral masters battle the heaven-tearing gold dragon, in his mind he controlled the soul-sealing bottle to prepare to be the one who got away with the bone. Demon beasts were unable to be taken into empty astral bags while they had souls. Only when its soul was forced out would its spirit hole open. This corpse could then be easily stored, but looking at these 2 supercluster cultivators also becoming restless, it seemed snatching the dragon's corpse would not be that simple. The heaven-tearing gold dragon's claws randomly flailed. A gold light sprayed, and its talons, tail and horn were all like weapons. Ancestor Heavenly Fire and Ancestor Huaimu already were continuously straining, secretly shocked the 9th rank's close combat yielded truly incredible results. If these 2 had not joined hands, perhaps they already would have been finished. Considering to this point, Ancestor Heavenly Fire's dozens of flying swords once again flashed with flame, becoming several dozen dragons that rolled towards the heaven-tearing gold dragon. Ancestor Heavenly Fire, once this dragon is slain, how about we evenly split it? Ancestor Huaimu was increasingly restless as he looked at the heaven-tearing gold dragon. Has this ancestor ever wronged you? Ancestor Heavenly Fire controlled his sword chant, making the flying swords that filled the sky ceaselessly attack. When Ancestor Huaimu heard this, he used his strongest sword array. More than 50 flying swords neatly shot into the sky and simultaneously fell down, vaguely forming a complex array pattern. Tai Sword Array. 9. The ancestral master has used the Tai Sword Array. We must also advance. When the Tai Sword sect disciples saw this, each was excited. The sword chants they used hardly careless. Su Xing also seized the chance to rush out. The heaven-tearing gold dragon no longer was capable of supporting itself. Being entangled in the attack of a sword array of several hundred flying swords, the golden light protecting its body was increasingly feeble. Its claws and groans gradually lost their edge. Smart people knew from a glance the heaven-tearing gold dragon was at its end. Roar! The heaven-tearing gold dragon at death's doorstep fought. Waving its dragon claws, it sent Suo Qingshuang and Han Qing flying. The two ancestors shouted, completely stimulating their star energy, and the sword array fell just like a torrential downpour. The heaven-tearing gold dragon's cries shook the heavens, and it finally faced the sky and made a long hiss, its protective golden light immediately going out. When Ancestor Heavenly Fire and Ancestor Huaimu saw this, they excitedly rushed forth, wanting to seize the heaven-tearing gold dragon. Just at this moment, all of a sudden, a silhouette moved. Flashing in front of them, it made a beeline for the already dying dragon. Ancestral Masters, discuss once more. Disciple shall first go help the Ancestral Masters receive it. Su Xing loudly yelled, not neglecting what was underfoot in the slightest. Ancestor Heavenly Fire was blank, having never experienced before that an apprentice would vie for something in front of a supercluster stage Ancestral Master. Turning his head to Ancestor Huaimu, he mocked. Your Tai Sword sect has honestly taught a good disciple among you. He actually is not afraid to die. What? Is that not your sword sect's disciple? Ancestor Huaimu froze, saying in disbelief. It was actually he who made us help you. This ancestor indeed wanted to call someone, but then you came. The faces of the two ancestral masters changed. Damn, we have been fooled. Turning their heads to look, they saw an immense bolt of purple thunder shoot out of that youth's hand. The purple thunderbolt directly cut into the heaven-tearing gold dragon. This 9th-ranked demon beast unexpectedly was pierced right through and died. Everyone was shaken, having never seen a galaxy early-stage cultivator possess such a nimble method. This was bad. He was the purple thunder monster. The calm Zhao Heng could not help but shout when he saw that terrifying purple thunder. Did they hear purple thunder monster? Everyone was startled. The two ancestors' reactions were extremely quick. Using escape techniques, they then arrived before Su Xing. At this time, they happened to see Su Xing about to store away the heaven-tearing gold dragon's corpse after having already taken its soul. Ancestor Heavenly Fire's palm chopped, the blaze on it roaring, imposing and fierce. In his heart he sneered, so what if you are the purple thunder monster? Unexpectedly daring to amuse yourself at this ancestor's expense. Entirely extinguish your mind first then move. The two supercluster middle-stage cultivators were filled with confidence as they acted. All of a sudden at this moment, two light rays shot out, and two graceful figures simultaneously appeared to Su Xing's left and right. One had a flourishing heroic air while the other was oppressively cold. A cold spear flashed and swept, and two fists waved and danced. Ancestor Heavenly Fire and Ancestor Huaimu were thwarted, having been shaken back. Arctic Star Serpent Spear. Yin Yang Pisces. Two star generals. The founders were shocked. Let's go. Su Xing stored the heaven-tearing gold dragon, and was giddy in his heart. Because the heaven-tearing gold dragon perished, the purple star platform at this time showed a gap on one face. Su Xing seized the opportunity to hastily fly towards the purple cloud. Ancestor Heavenly Fire relentlessly pursued, unwilling to let him go. His sword chant frantically chased Su Xing, but when it touched the purple cloud, it stumbled and was unable to continue after a short while. Ancestor Heavenly Fire knew that was the purple star platform for bid dance, where only those with star generals could enter it. He flew into a rage, angered enough his face turned the color of pig's liver. He had expended immense effort, suffered countless casualties to kill the heaven-tearing gold dragon, only now to have it stolen away by someone. Furthermore, it was a galaxy early-stage cultivator who snatched it away from in front of him. He simply was about to blow his top. Damned purple thunder monster, this ancestor absolutely will skin you. Calm down. Ancestor Huaimu was actually more tranquil than him by far. Although he was extremely furious on the inside as well, compared to Ancestor Heavenly Fire's explosive temper, he had that additional bit of restraint. That purple thunder monster naturally was as incredible as the legends said, and to unexpectedly fool them, even snatching away the golden dragon, this courage and insight, this spirit perhaps could not be matched by anyone else among the Star Masters. What made him feel even more shocked was that the purple thunder monster had signed 2 star generals. We should join hands to first kill this purple thunder monster. Someday he will be the unknown factor of the star duels. Ancestor Huaimu said. Ancestor Heavenly Fire held this to be true. His anger difficult to alleviate, he looked to Zhao Heng. The 2 star masters had also been scared stiff by Su Xing's brazen action, daring to seize food from the tiger's den of a supercluster stage cultivator with just his galaxy stage, something only a madman would go do. Since he has 2 star generals, we can settle things after we join hands to first destroy him. Zhao Heng said to Su Feng. This palace shall use the 3-star destined weapon to properly receive Lin Chong. The impatient vanguard Su Chao coldly smiled. Then the 2 figures sped away, entering the purple cloud. After the purple cloud, it was some other paradise. What appeared in front was an immense, kilometer-wide terrace of purple jade. 9 coiling dragon pillars of crystal were arranged in succession, and in the center of these coiling dragon pillars were 36 earthly fiend grade chests, 18 heavenly spirit grade chests and 9 purple star grade chests stacked layer upon layer, having been heaped into a pyramid. Furthermore, this steel floated above the top of this pyramid, and it sealed a golden book. This was the birth treasure outline. Su Xing promptly flew down towards the platform. Just as he was about to draw near, the coiling dragon pillars' images moved. A fire dragon flew out, imposing and fierce, baring its teeth and claws in an apparently extremely surly manner. With a great dragon roar, its grandeur was not the slightest bit similar to the heaven-tearing gold dragon. Su Xing already knew that the purple star grade birth outline was far from being as simple as the heavenly spirit and earthly fiend. Besides its demon beast escorts, the interior had many layers of forbid dances. Seeing that this 9 dragons divine fire pillar was also a unique magic weapon, his heart was secretly shocked. Just what was the background of this Liangshan maiden? With this style, these 9 dragons divine fire pillars were joined with the star general forbid dance. If these were broken, the outside supercluster cultivators could also enter. Su Xing immediately hesitated no longer, bringing up the clinging fire star domain sword and slashing. Lin Yingmei and Yin Yizhen at this time were about to break this fire dragon pillar. Suddenly, the purple cloud was split open, and an essence light struck at Su Xing. Lin Yingmei blocked it with her spear, immediately cutting down this weapon. It was a shuttle of flickering starlight. This shuttle seemingly was an astral treasure, having not been shattered under the attack of a 2-star destined weapon. The shuttle returned to Zhao Heng's hand, and the second prince was stunned as he looked at Lin Yingmei and the others. A 2-star destined weapon. Lin Chong. Purple thunder monster, in the right situation, you indeed personally appear. This palace truly admires that. The flight star impatient vanguard Suo Qingshuang held her long axe. Su Feng and Han Qing also arrived shortly beside her. The earthly majestic star raised her spear. Elder sister, what are you waiting for? A figure flashed. The earthly majestic star raised the 100 Wars bloodthirst spear and attacked. Su Feng and Zhao Heng also did not dare to be careless, hefting several objects. Astonishingly, all of them were astral tools and such that smashed at Su Xing. The general of 100 victories Han Qing also stabbed at Su Xing. Although the two were working together, Su Xing's side also had 2 people, and Lin Yingmei and Yin Yizhen continuously blocked beside their master. Lin Yingmei's Arctic Star Serpent Spear then brushed away the attacking astral tools. The 2-star Arctic Star Serpent Spear facing these star tools was destroying these astral tools as easily as paper, And when Su Xing saw this, he did not want to waste any more time. Hastily, he used his abilities to go break the fire dragon pillar. Bang! The Arctic Star Serpent Spear was lowered. Lin Yingmei held it with both hands, her expression slightly grave. The flight star Suochao's lips curled into a cold smile. Single-handedly brandishing the 100,000 dragon flame axe, the 3-star destined weapons might slash downwards. The axe edge's fire dragon burst forth, its sparks burning on Lin Yingmei's face, bringing slight scars. Elder sister, is it good? Suo Qingshuang swept the axe, as if she was sweeping dead leaves. The 2-star Arctic Star Spear barely stopped it, directly brushing Lin Yingmei several meters away. If she had not advanced to 2-star, this sweep probably would not have been this easy. The General of 100 Victories at this time scuttled to Lin Yingmei's front. This 100 Wars Bloodthirst Spear abruptly flashed, the spear tip changed, giving rise to phantom layers. One stroke violent death. Clang clang. Han Qing was stunned. Such a swift surprise attack surprisingly had been blocked by Lin Yingmei. The heavenly majestic star spun her spear, her spear tip even faster, and Han Qing only felt the sight in front of her distort. The Arctic Star Serpent Spear then arrived in front of her, and Han Qing screamed in terror. She hastily brought her spear back, and suddenly saw Lin Yingmei's whole body was like a mirage. 10,000 techniques realm, Han Qing yelled in shock. After these words dropped, the spear tip reached her stomach, and the white armor released a white light that protected her. A sound like striking the water's surface broke the air. Han Qing was sent backwards more than a dozen paces, her stomach faintly hurting. The white armor had already been ruptured with a hole. This white armor was known as Armor of Hoarfrost. To an earthly spirit grade astral treasure. Surprisingly, punctured by a spear, this frightened Han Qing enough her body was covered in cold sweat. If it was not for this astral treasure, this bout was her loss. Elder sister, play with this palace. Suo Qingshuang shouted, the axe edge very aggressive. More than a dozen fire dragons suddenly appeared, which Lin Yingmei received with her spear. A cold wind swelled out, and the fire dragon instantly swallowed Lin Yingmei's defenses. Suo Qingshuang hastily rushed to attack, her offensive also as violent and fierce as her temperament. The pressure the 3-star destined weapon brought upon Lin Yingmei already could make up for the disparity between their martial strength and realms. Meanwhile, the Yan Yizhen on the other side at this time already launched a close-quarters assault on Su Feng and Zhao Heng. The 2-star masters had the support of great sects, and to dare come plunder the purple star grade birth outline with their nebula late stage, they naturally had life-preserving treasures. One of these made willow vines that wrapped around Su Feng. These vine willow jadites were succulent, sparkling and pure, brimming with life, and Yan Yizhen's boxing simply was incapable of shaking it. Zhao Heng's capital was even more ample. His full-body luxurious red robes released hundreds of fire dragons that twisted in the several che around his body and formed an impenetrable defense. Yan Yizhen's boxing wildly danced, continuously striking Su Feng. That willow vine was slowly splitting under the skillful star's barrage of fists. Yan Qing, watch this generals. The general of 100 Victories Han Tao promptly attacked. The spear was raised, wild and complicated, its cold glint like a suspended galaxy pouring down. She had no certainty confronting the heavenly majestic star. After all, Lin Yingmei was a master of the spear. Likewise, who could be her opponent in spearmanship? While Yan Yizhen's boxing arts were impressive, the general of 100 Victories Han Tao dared to be self-proclaim herself 100 Victories. She naturally had some capital. The 2-star 100 Wars Bloodthirst Spear initiated a ferocious attack. Like a bloodthirsty lion, a deadly spear. Yan Yizhen's fists moved, violent and swift. One stroke violent death. The general of 100 Victories Han Tao abruptly aimed for her chance, the spear flashing. The so-called one-stroke violent death was a split-second attack used in close quarters that concentrated all power onto a single point on the spear. Its speed and destructive power were increased several factors, and for a 2-star destined weapon, this was something that could not be taken lightly. Yan Yizhen's abdomen immediately was punctured with a bloody hole. But a wound like this was not enough to make the maid show it in her eyes. Her vermilion and cold pupils flashed a cold glint. and the skillful star wanderer Yanqing's palm suddenly turned hot and cold, transitioning into an attack. It was the yin-yang palm. Bang bang. With the sounds of two heavy strikes, the General of 100 Victories' armor of hoarfrost once again gained two more deep cracks, completely obstructing Yan Yizhen's might. Hey! The General of 100 Victories once more prepared to use one-stroke violent death a fourth time. Yan Yizhen's pace mysteriously changed, and she arrived to her side. With an elbow strike, she sent Han Qing flying, and just as she was about to pursue, a green vine whip stopped the maid's attack. Su Feng raised the astral treasure. That treasure switched from defense to offense, becoming several dozen that wrapped the maid into a bundle. This purple thunder monster is too abnormal. He has the skillful star and the heavenly majestic star. We need to kill him. Su Feng urgently shouted. At this time he already saw that Su Xing and the coiling dragon divine fire pillars 3 battle had reached its pivotal moment. Zhao Heng's face was unsightly. He had neither sword chant nor cultivation that could compare to Su Xing's, so how could he go fight? Qingshuang. Immediately he shouted. Suo Qingshuang's understood tacitly, her eyes flashing a grim expression. Instantly, the 100,000 dragon flame axe's fain wind whooshed. Suo Qingshuang raised the long axe, and all of the flames concentrated onto her axe, turning it a shining deep red. The fire dragons of the axe head were innumerable as they violently rolled forth. A type of terrifying pressure pervaded the air towards everyone present. Su Xing knew the moment he saw that she was about to use her yellow rank style. The 3-star destined weapon's yellow rank style was nothing something he could take lightly. 100,000 fire dragons rapid kill. Suo Qingshuang's long axe chopped, the axe edge seemingly releasing millions of majestic fire dragons. When these fire dragons emerged, the entire purple jade platform was suddenly a thorough red. Even the far outer face was a visibly red color. The fire dragons flowed like a flood from a released dam. And their objective, shockingly, was Su Xing, young master. Lin Yingmei became a destructive shadow that rushed towards Su Xing. This 100,000 fire dragons' rapid kill simply did not give Su Xing any chance to evade. Su Xing changed, shouting, "Forget about me." If Lin Yingmei took this blow, that situation approached a crisis. It seemed he could only use the red ink iron certificate. Just at this time, a figure appeared in front of the 100,000 roaring fire dragons. Yan Yizhen's fists of yin and yang increased dramatically, forming a soft taiji symbol. A brilliant splendor obstructed, and the maid's 2 arms crossed together to block, directly stopping head-on the fire dragon's rapid kill. The 3-star destined weapon's power could be this tyrannical. Su Xing only saw Yan Yizhen's whole body set ablaze. "Elder sister, slave servant leaves master to you." Yan Yizhen's apathetic voice resounded. Su Xing suddenly felt his head hurt. When the fire dragons disappeared, the skillful star Yan Yizhen had disappeared into thin air. Unexpectedly, she had been struck directly into her contractor's star nest by this 100,000 fire dragon's rapid kill, losing her battle potential. The Extreme Ice Holy Palace with its allied sect, the Blue Wave Palace, currently confronted the heaven-swallowing silver dragon. The Queen Lady of Ice's full-body white long skirt fluttered about with light circling about. This silk dress was structured from the silk that the water drainage heavenly silkworm spat out. Upon it was carved an 8x8, 64-path water drainage talisman. And at this moment, the amulet completely opened. True water condensed into a blade and perfectly complemented her life-cast sword chant. 32 Ice Spirits and 32 Frost Souls Sword. 2. The 64 Ice Spirits and Frost Souls Sword became sparkling and translucent water dragons interweaving together. The 100 meters of ground before the Queen Lady of Ice became an extremely large yin-yang symbol. And 2 yin-yang fishes circled about, seemingly a sparkling and sturdy water screen. It trapped the heaven-swallowing silver dragon inside, utterly vast and utterly good-looking. The heaven-swallowing silver dragon spat a cold light. Yet it was incapable of breaking out of the water screen's encirclement. The Ice Spirit Frost Snow Sword launched deadly strikes from time to time, attacking the helpless heaven-swallowing silver dragon. At this moment, A violent terror suddenly was transmitted over. The purple thunder monster. This purple thunder monster has only naturally come. The Queen Lady of Ice completely lacked expression, her tone ice-cold. We must not fall behind. Two supercluster cultivators raised their hands into a seal, throwing out a jade vase that released a mysterious icy true water. These true waters had a cold chi-fitted layer upon layer. When it first appeared, it was as if the world froze. This was the Queen Lady of Ice's most powerful magic weapon, mysterious ice jade vase. 3. Hidden inside was the chi of true cold, picked and refined from the cold chi of the Arctic Pole Sea's mysterious ice. It lost a bit of itself with each use, was priceless, and the Queen Lady of Ice had not much anything else. When the bottle appeared, it combined with the Ice Spirit Frost Snow Swords, in Cold Taiji Sword Array. The other supercluster cultivator similarly activated a magic weapon, and the Ice Chill Sword Chants 5 of the other disciples continuously attacked. Jusha, Gong Kaiwei said. The leader star resourceful strategist Jusha's hand seals moved, and the 5 elements weather banner became something graceful, with lightning flashes and thunder rolls inside the array. Not only the extreme Ice Holy Palace, but the Most High Path, the True Immortals Hall, the Lifeless Hall and all the other great sects were no different. Those that remained to plunder the purple star birth outline naturally would have star masters, otherwise, how would they willingly take these risks? More than a dozen large schools accelerated their assault, and the 4 great firmaments dragons were killed like arrows at the end of their path. The bright lights above the White Deer Highlands grew without restraint, with wisps of red clouds in the thousands. Inside the forest several dozen li around the White Deer Highlands, many cultivators at this time spied on the sects that were pillaging the 5 Dragons Protection Palace at the White Deer Highlands. Seeing the ancient 9th-ranked demon dragons killed one by one at the hands of the great sects, they were green with envy, but they did not dare lend support. And at a corner of the forest, Wuxia, Shi Yuan and Ensuan were currently nervously looking forth when Wuxia suddenly sunk. She too sensed that Yan Yizhen had been struck into the star nest. The purple thunder monster. What? It is only natural that the purple thunder monster would come to plunder. Just which sect is he from? A devil cult from the Black Turtle territory? At this time, the cultivators spectating the battle one by one discussed in amazement, as they had also seen the purple thunder monster steal the heaven-tearing gold dragon. They spoke in admiration and in jealousy. The purple thunder monster already was being monitored by each of the larger schools, and unexpectedly daring to show himself, he is dead for certain this time. He must really be dreaming if he thinks he can steal the birth outline from under the encirclement of more than a dozen sections. Hard to say. Hearing the discussions of these cultivators, Wu Xinjia's expression was also unsightly. What do we do? Sister Xinjia, shall we go help Big Brother? And Suan asked. To expose that Su Xing had contracted more than 2 star generals right now perhaps would be in even bigger trouble, but just at this moment, all of a sudden, Wu Xinjia cast a glance towards the sky and showed an unusual expression. Why has she come? Speaking of what was happening inside the Purple Jade Palace, Yan Yizhen staked all of her strength to block the insufferably arrogant 3-star destined weapons killing blow, which made the impatient vanguard Suo Chao greatly startled. The heavenly star herself used the yellow rank style solely in order to stake everything on one blow, especially with a 3-star destined weapon combined with a master at only Nebula late stage. Such use meant her star energy would be left greatly depleted. While Suo Qingshuang felt great surprise, she abruptly felt the previously burning temperature before her suddenly drop. Cold chi shot in every direction, and ice formed in the air. This is bad. When everyone noticed, they saw a purple lightning net trap them. Su Xing at this time dodged away, first avoiding the fire dragon pillar. Then blooming water divine thunder burst forth from his fingers, becoming a dragon claw. The purple thunder dragon claw flew, grabbing Zhao Heng, Su Feng, Suo Chao and Han Tao. The pretty and cold heart had a mutual connection. Lin Yingmei's Arctic Star Serpent Spear, its tip speckled with snow, its cold light hidden and visible gave rise to countless phantoms of herself. The general of 100 victories Han Tao raised her spear in astonishment to block it. She broke one of the Linning Mei phantoms and immediately saw the Arctic spear attack before her eyes. The first spear was only north wind blows. 6. The second spear was sudden first snowfall. 7. And the third spear, union of wind and snow. 8. Han Tao was startled. The 100 Wars Bloodthirst spear put up a spear array. Bang, 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 bang. The 2-star Arctic Star Serpent spear broke the array as if it was paper. The armor of Hoarfrost had been shattered by the sharp tip of the spear. The earthly fiend's utmost astral treasure unexpectedly could not block it. And having lost the astral treasure's protection, the General of 100 Victories could even be said to be a wide open door. Before she could react, a cold wind poured into her body, and her 4 limbs were ice cold to the bone. Young master, flee quickly. Han Qing shouted loudly. Her black robes and white armor were immediately destroyed by the blizzard. The wind and snow spear technique went from slow to fast, from diluted to dense in no longer than the blink of an eye. The earthly majestic star general of 100 Victories was then dispatched, and by the time she finished speaking, Linning Mei's blizzard already enveloped the other 3. Su Feng at this time committed his biggest mistake, by using his jadeite vine whip to attack. Under the 2-star destined weapon's long blizzard nights, the attacking vine were frozen into splinters and shattered by the icy wind afterwards. Su Feng almost did not react. Suddenly he felt his body lose its weight. He screamed, unexpectedly directly killed by the cold wind on Linning Mei's spear. A crimson-colored star fell in anguish. The ranked 42nd earthly majestic star then died just like that. The flight star impatient vanguard Sua Chao also was in a cold sweat of fear. The long axe's flames burned, but how could she have any leeway after using 100,000 fire dragons' rapid kill? Furthermore, Linning Mei's long blizzard night's true killing move was approaching her now. The spear's power could not be resisted, and Sua Chao could only raise her long axe to go block it. Her 3-star destined weapon was just as valiant, and Sua Qingshuang was haughtily motionless, like a boulder, tightly suppressing Linning Mei's spear technique. Because Zhao Heng had the fire dragon robe protecting him, he was more fortunate than Sua Feng, escaping disaster by pure fluke. Although the protective fire dragon robe had been ravaged by the blizzard, it could count as a tire that blocked the storm. But Zhao Heng did not yet rejoice, for suddenly, he saw at this moment the broken sky made a noise. A rose-colored seal came whooshing towards him. The fire dragon went to block it, but unexpectedly, it was smashed directly through. Zhao Heng's expression changed, and he raised the astral treasure, Flying Star Shuttle. 9. It collided with the seal with an enormous noise, finally sending this terrifying seal back. Su Xing put away the mountain-breaking engraving and thought, what a pity. Otherwise, he would have then killed this 3-star destined weapon Zhao Heng. Sua Chao immediately retreated, positioning herself in front of her master. Linning Mei all of a sudden rushed forward, preparing to take advantage of this to kill 2 people. Su Xing also reacted instantly, unleashing a bolt of divine thunder. Zhao Heng's expression hovered uncertainly between grim and calm. His divine intent latched onto the heavenly spirit grade already with a sense of hesitance. For him to confront the legendary purple thunder monster alone, that was a bit too groundless. Young master. Sua Qingshuang's 100,000 fire dragons axe continued to be wrapped with waiting fire dragons, but Zhao Heng already was slightly unable to support a second 3-star attack. His star energy was weak, and the fire dragons protecting him were even more conspicuously feeble. Return we leave. Zhao Heng grit his teeth. Looking at that purple star-grade chest, his heart severely ached, but he turned and dodged into the purple clouds with a rush. Just at this moment, several streaks of jade light mixed with flame and rushed at him all of a sudden. Zhao Heng was alarmed, and his fire dragon broke. His body suffered a green light, causing him to vomit a mouthful of blood. Just as the Sua Qingshuang handling Linning Mei shouted, another streak of green light approached, astonishingly not giving Zhao Heng the chance to leave the purple cloud. Zhao Heng could only helplessly sacrifice the heavenly spirit jade pendant, which cracked. Immediately, it turned into a smoke cloud that dispersed on the purple jade platform. The impatient vanguard Sua Chao's figure similarly transformed when she saw this, fleeing along with him. Before Su Xing could see clearly just what was going on. Young master, look out! Linning Mei suddenly dodged, raising her spear. Clang, clang, clang. Several green lights smashed with a crisp sound onto Lin Yingmei's spear shaft, the power of them surprisingly overwhelming, making the webbing of Lin Yingmei's fingers to tear. Her pace was unsteady, being in a precarious situation after having just used long blizzard nights. That randomly appearing and disappearing jadeite light again pounded Lin Yingmei's shoulders, her wrists, nearly knocking away her weapon. When Su Xing saw this, he swiftly scuttled to her front. The clinging fire star domain sword unleashed a great swathe of clinging fire. But this jadeite light unexpectedly pierced through the clinging fire, and Su Xing only avoided this by using the Bagua escape technique. However, that jadeite light was like a demon that followed him everywhere. Su Xing opened his mouth, only stopping it with a dozen rock-piercing water droplets. Lin Yingmei already recovered from her yellow rank style, and her eyes flashed a coldness. She suddenly leapt, hacking at empty space. The spear's wind tore. She broke several green lights, and a figure was forced out. Seeing that young girl, Su Xing and Lin Yingmei both felt stunned and sunk. That young girl was pretty as a flower, her expression Sundara. She wore a green palace dress and had eyes green as jade. She was the girl who they briefly saw when they encountered Yan Wudao. Yan Wudao's star general. What made Su Xing sink was that this young girl floated in the air. Her hands opened, and under each of those fair palms of hers were suspended 3 pieces of rhomboid jade. These jade stones were bright, sparkling, brilliant, and pure beyond compare. There vaguely was a jade fire raised on this girl's palm that continuously revolved, very stunning. Asking directions to the underworld stone. Su Xing's brow wrinkled. The girl before them was the ranked 16th Agile Star, Featherless Arrow Zhangqing. 11. The lifeless Hall honestly would not let go of any opportunities. A woman's cold voice appeared. The newcomer was a pretty girl. However, this is also fine. Zhao Heng's star general is surprisingly 3-star, so not dying is somewhat regretful. Is it not, princess? The Princess Ling Yin 100 meters away did not say anything. However, this Lin Chong is truly incredible. 2 against 1, and she still could kill one of them. The girl said. Her robes were of the Blue Wave Palaces. Yan Wudao calmly appeared beside Zhangqing, pensively staring at Su Xing. At this time, the purple clouds dispersed, and Su Xing's heart sunk, for he heard the dragon roars outside that did not stop. Another 6 or 7 silhouettes appeared one after another in the 1,000 meters of the purple jade platform. Although they each were separated by an extreme distance, each pair of eyes were fixed on Su Xing. Shock, complexity, and indifference could be found everywhere. These men and women each had flickering star crests on their foreheads, and a maiden of outstanding beauty standing guard to the side. Astonishingly, they were the more than 10-star masters from all of the great sects who had come to plunder the purple star grade birth outline. Purple Thunder Monster, today is the time you and Lin Chong die. They heard a haughty voice shout. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.